It's another beautiful day. Thank you for joining us this Wednesday morning, the 14th day of this 12th month as we head towards Christmas. But it's another beautiful day to serve you. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I do this as always with Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah. Thank you for joining us. Now, coming up this morning, we're going to serve you the news shortly with yours truly. And right after that, we get into the news review, joined by political scientist, head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asante. And from there, we get into our big stories, and we'll start talking, of course, about the economy. Ghana has clinched a staff-level agreement with the IMF amidst reservations from labor unions on its debt exchange program. The question is, can Ghana grab the $3 billion needed to turn the fortunes of the economy around? And again, the Ghana Cedi continues to gain ground against all three major trading currencies, having appreciated by some 20% in 2 weeks. Is this a good omen for the economy? What is accounting for this? And is this the average Ghanaian feeling? The effect is that the sentiment the person on the street is feeling. Or is all of this just a bubble? Is it artificial? We'll be finding out about that. But later on the show, we'll serve you AM Business, and we pay a visit to the Abosokai spare parts market, where over 50 spare parts dealers have shut down their operations due to defaults in payment of their loans and a general high cost of doing business. We'll be getting you the scoop on that as well. But as always, we'll take your views, because that is why we do this show. In the course of the show, whatever your thoughts are, just send them to us with the hashtag AM Show via our live stream, and at the tail end when we activate the phone lines, give us a buzz. Let us know what's on your mind. On that note, Ghana 4, thank you for spreading the word. This is the best in the morning. Up next, we serve you the news. Thank you for staying with us. Let's serve you the news now. And in our first story, it's been a long time coming, with several promises, missed deadlines, and its attendant effect on the macroeconomic stability of the country. But after several months of negotiations, Ghana has finally reached a staff-level agreement with the International Monetary Fund for economic policies and reforms. There is more in this News Desk report.
The $3 billion extended credit facility is expected to help restore macroeconomic stability, address structural weaknesses, and enhance resilience to shocks the economy has suffered, while protecting the vulnerable, preserving financial stability, and laying the foundation for a strong and inclusive recovery. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has been given details of their negotiations with the fund, highlighting the deliverables that has culminated in this agreement.
So the key deliverables over the period include the preparation of the PCPEC program, medium-term macroeconomic framework, debt sustainability analysis and debt management strategy, structural reforms to address structural bottlenecks, improve competitiveness and promote efficiency and effectiveness, a memorandum of economic and financial policies, and an agreement on prior actions which are expected to be completed before the fund goes to the board.
But to seal the deal, the staff of the IMF say they will need the assurances of our creditors on our debt restructuring program before they can present this staff-level agreement to the IMF Executive Board. Stefan Rudet is leader of the team.
What is necessary for us to be able to present that program request to the board is assurances from Ghana's partners and Ghana's creditors that one, the program is fully financed. In other words, the financial support that will be provided to the authorities during the program period is sufficient to finance the program.
In response, Ghana's Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta announced that government will now earnestly start negotiating with our external creditors to restructure our debt.
Key fiscal measures, structural reforms, and the medium-term macro-fiscal framework in the 2023 budget are aligned with the IMF-supported program. It is therefore crucial that we receive support from all stakeholders especially Parliament, to ensure that the 2023 budget, including all revenue measures, are passed and not returned to last year's experience that we had. And the creditors also to ensure a successful debt operation. So even as we engage the domestic in the exchange, we'll be looking for our discussions with the bilateral partners and also with our bond investors.
But given the level of agitation and rejection of the domestic debt exchange program, what are our chances of success? And is the IMF taking note of the reactions by stakeholders? When asked the question, here's what the IMF team lead, Stefan Rodet, said.
What is very important for the IMF is that the government strategy as a whole be sufficient to put debt on a sustainable path and to bring debt sustainability over the medium term. This is really the overarching goal of one of the overarching goals of the program. Now, when it comes to the specifics of the government's debt restructuring strategy, when it comes to, for example, the perimeter of the debt restructuring, which debt would be included or not included, when it comes to the parameters of the debt restructuring, in other words, what type of relief would be sought from one type of creditors or another, and when it comes to engagement between the government and the creditors, all of that are very much sovereign decisions, and they are very much for the government to decide on in collaboration with their financial and legal advisors.
It remains a sovereign decision. That is the IMF position on the agitation by stakeholders. So that begs the question, will TUC and other stakeholders get their demand from government?
That with regards to the trade union, the TUC, I think it's not a very surprising position because it is, all of these things are shocks that we need to analyze and then make determinations as to how best to move forward as a nation. But we've been able to do literally the
In our next story, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu says government and the NPP must stop jubilating over the staff-level agreement reached with the International Monetary Fund. The agreement signifies a significant progress in Ghana's efforts to reach a $3 billion deal with the fund to help the country's ailing economy. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante has details of reactions to the staff-level agreement from Parliament.
The Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu claims government functionaries and NPP activists are jubilating over the agreement announced today. Haruna Idrisu says there's nothing to be excited about.
For staff-level agreement, I see them dancing and celebrating to it premature. Our debt is still not sustainable. The debt exchange initiative of the minister may probably fail. Or staff-level agreement to us means nothing. He must come with board approval and management approval. If you read the text well of the agreement which has been signed, two important paragraphs. The second paragraph emphasizes reforms. There aren't enough reforms even in the budget for us to think that we are reforming and restructuring the economy. It's also conditional on other matters relating to making debt sustainable. A precondition. Unsatisfied.
The Minority Leader has also been demanding that the Finance Ministry brings to Parliament its debt restructuring arrangement for approval.
Even the debt exchange, they must bring something and lay here for the people of Ghana. The Minister of Finance cannot just walk away as if everything in this country is determined by him. If you are doing haircut, and you are changing contents of agreement, whether domestic or external, they are contractual, and those contractual comes with obligations. He must come and lay a paper in this house how he intends to work on the external debt, because when this house approves those loans agreement, We approve them consistent with Article 181. Terms and conditions. You can't vary the terms at your pleasure or as it pleases a certain Minister for Finance. Those terms and conditions must be brought to this House for our scrutiny.
But Vice Chairman of the Finance Committee, Patrick Boama, says if there is any of the arrangements that must come to Parliament, government will not hesitate to do so.
The minority leader made serious statements with regards to the government's debt exchange program, and also the fact that certain documents ought to be laid before the House. I believe that all those requisite documents will be subjected to parliamentary scrutiny. The first step is what has been announced. Every step that requires the people's representative to look at, I believe, will have the opportunity to look at that. So I want him to be rest assured, to allay his fears.
The minority insists that the details of that debt restructuring program that government has announced and which it is currently implementing must be brought before Parliament. There are those who have opined that because of the legalities and the nature of that arrangement, it does not have to come to Parliament. But some NPP MPs have been assuring the minority that if there is the need to bring some of those fine details to Parliament, then that will be done. But with government now getting the staff level arrangement with the IMF officials who came down to negotiate, it is expected that in the next few months, government will be able to get the final authorization from the IMF board to be able to enroll and finally implement an IMF program. That may take some time, given the fine details of the domestic debt exchange program as well as the external debt exchange program to be able to bring Ghana's debts to sustainable levels. Reporting for JoyNews, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
While staying in Parliament, the Trades and Industry Committee has put on hold the approval of 80 million cedis allocated for the construction of the National Cathedral. The allocation, which was made to the Ministry for Tourism, has failed to go through the committee because members of Parliament want more answers from the minister. According to Tamale Central Member of Parliament, until the committee is satisfied, they will not approve the ministry's estimates without the allocation made to the cathedral.
What the committee decided was that, one, we cannot just approve this 80 million for you. We must know how the other 339 million was spent. Because like I told you, when we are looking at budget estimates, we have a duty as the legislature to hold the executive accountable. In terms of what you've approved previously. Exactly. Even if we didn't, they did it illegally, but we have a mandate now to find out, is the taxpayers' money. How did you spend the 339 million? What did it constitute? The 80 million you want us to approve, how did that 80 million find space in the budget line of the Ministry of Tourism when the minister and the directors could not speak to the questions we were asking? Two, what constitute the 80 million, Ghana cedis you want us to approve? Give us the breakdown. Three, what role did you play in coming out with that? Of course, the minister will not be in the position to answer the earlier two questions. How the 330 million was spent. Those who expended the money, we are inviting them. We are inviting the Secretariat to come and explain to us, and possibly the Minister for Finance to come and explain to us how they spend those monies.
Well, Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, the Member of Parliament, also alleged that the allocation was imposed on the ministry by the presidency without the knowledge of the minister and technocrats at that ministry. He explains why.
Are done through the agencies. You have a budget planning committee of every ministry, and the agencies under the ministry would also plan their budget. They then have a committee to look at the individual agency budgets, and that is conglomerated to give you the ministry budget, including, of course, the budget of the ministry itself. So every aspect of the budget that is presented by the minister on behalf of the ministry and the agencies that the minister is supervising over, that minister must have the information on his fingertips. And therefore, he must speak to each of them because they are all agencies. When we realize that the cathedral, the 80 million cedis, is in the Ministry of Tourism. We asked simple questions. We wanted to find out from the minister whether he made an input in the planning, the calculation of the budget and what they were going to do, for which reason the 80 million Ghana cedis for the Cathedral is found in the ministry budget. The minister could not explain.
Meanwhile, on comments by the Ochehene that the cathedral must be built so as not to bring shame to President Akufo-Addo, who made that promise to the Christian community, Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed has this response.
Oh, I should laugh. Look, I'm a royal and I have so much respect for chiefs. But to be very honest, I think that when Karl Marx said that religion was the opium of the masses, I think the traditional authorities now is becoming the opium of the masses. I mean, how on earth could anyone argue this way? The biggest cathedral in Ghana is in my constituency. The biggest cathedral. And I remember even as a Muslim growing up, that's where we used to go. We used to go to watch, movies of Jesus Christ, and you had a lot of young people going there. Now, I have heard the argument that is being made that yes, it is a tourist attraction. On what basis are we going to get in tourist attraction? You think that someone will leave Bethlehem and leave those,
They want to build
those?
a Bible
I'm saying,
museum.
please, I'm coming. Bible museum. Even the Bible itself tells you the best thing that pleases God is to help improve the living conditions of people.
Well, it is the final countdown to the NDC's national elections this weekend. And with Asiedu Nketia, the incumbent general secretary, seeking a higher office, others are stepping up to replace him. One of them is former sports minister Elvis Afriyie-Ankrah, who is facing a tough contest against two key formidable contenders. In today's build-up, Samuel Mbura focuses on his chances.
His opponents will attack his record as sports minister. Elvis Afriyie-Ankrah famously cried before the committee that probed the Black Stars' shambolic and scandal-filled participation at the 2014 World Cup that has done little though to quench his passion for NDC internal political leadership. He showed his mettle as NDC Election 2020 Director of Elections, giving the Electoral Commission little rest.
And we are telling them that Ghana is not other countries. If they think that they can be manipulated and influenced as happened in other countries to manipulate the electoral system, then they should be ready for what is coming.
He is popularly remembered in the 2020 elections for his infamous announcement that the NDC was flipping some parliamentary seats at a time the EC was still collating results.
Preliminary results trickling in shows a very exciting outlook. We have flipped Lejokuku. We have flipped La Dadekotopon. We have flipped Tema East. We have flipped Adenta. 99% of these are not skirt and blouse votes, so it reflects in the presidential. So if we flip all these seats, nobody should tell you where we are heading towards. It's very clear. Parliamentary candidates, executives, regional constituency party executives go to the coalition centers and support our coalition agents.
He was, however, shocked after the declaration of results by the EC.
Me as director of elections,
we were three of us monitoring the results. Myself, Sami Jemfi, and Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, our national chairman. We saw the manipulation coming in. We were really shocked. It even made me to fall sick. To his critics who accuse him of supervising a shambolic NDC internal election results coalition, this is his response to you.
We had our results and the flag bearer and the entire leadership were briefed. Beyond that, results were collated from constituencies. If we didn't collate results, how then could we know that we had 137 seats? So anybody at our level who says that results were not collated is either very ignorant, should not come near leadership, or is full of mischief, because you should know.
But why does Elvis Afriyie-Ankrah really want to be the General Secretary of the NDC?
I'm ready for this job. I've been prepared for it. I've gone through the mill. And so I'm the best person for the job of General Secretary to help position the party properly for the battle in 2024 and the victory of 2024.
Elvis Efria Ankra will come up against formidable opponents in Dr. Peter Boama Otokono and Fifi Kweti. This week, your election headquarters will examine his other contenders who are determined to give him a run for his money because it is going to be a tough contest. For Joy News, Samuel Mbura.
Now, Deputy Minister of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development, Collins Augustine Ntim, at the launch of Resilience in Northern Ghana, that is Ring 2, has announced that the U.S. aid is providing $9 million in grants to be used over a 5-year period to facilitate the implementation of the Resilience in Northern Ghana project. The project seeks to strengthen government systems to improve service delivery in health, nutrition, water, sanitation, and hygiene, agriculture, and social protection. He said government had so far received an amount of 3.3 million Ghana cedis from U.S. aid for 4 regions in the north, namely Upper West, Upper East, Northeast, and Northern regions. He made the statement at the launch of the Resilience in Northern Ghana 2 at Nadoli in the Upper West region. Our correspondent there, Rafiq Salam, now reports.
The Resilience in Northern Ghana Ring 2 project is a continuation of the Ring project started in 2015 by the government of Ghana with support from U.S. aid. The Ring 2 partnership was co-created by U.S. aid, Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development, Ministry of Finance, National Development Planning Commission, along with representatives from the Upper West, Upper East, Northern and Northeast Regional Coordinating Councils and the 17 district assemblies implementing the project. The 5-year partnership will strengthen government systems to improve service delivery in health, nutrition, water, sanitation and hygiene, agriculture and social protection. The Deputy Minister of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development, Collins Augustine Ntim, at the launch noted that U.S. aid is committed to implementing the project, of which the government of Ghana have so far received an amount of 3,351,820.36 Ghana cedis.
To facilitate the implementation of Ring 2 projects, the USAID is providing $9 million United States grant to be used over the next 5-year period of the project. The collaborating partners, the government of Ghana and USAID, hope the expected outcomes of the project shall be achieved at the end of the project period. The expected outcomes includes 1. Sustained delivery of services that lead to improved nutrition, food security, climate mitigation interventions, and well-being of targeted communities. 2. Improve quality service delivery by the beneficiary districts, primarily in the areas of health, water, sanitation, hygiene, nutrition, and agriculture. Now, Chairman, the success of the project will determine government decision to design future projects to sustain the gains made.
Collins Augustine Ntim urged the beneficiary 17 districts to own the project and ensure its effective implementation.
Wish to urge all beneficiary, municipal and district assemblies to own this project. I'm talking about ownership, and you do appreciate what I mean by owning the project. And also place maximum importance to the implementation of this project and ensure effective and efficient use of allocated funds to the benefit of the poor household and improve the nutrition levels within the implementing districts of the projects.
Acting Mission Director Paul Pleber explained that through the partnership, the government of Ghana and U.S. aid have a unique opportunity to improve the nutrition and resilience of vulnerable communities in northern Ghana.
A critical aspect of Ring 2 is incorporating gender equity and inclusion of all communities, and engaging youth as we design and carry out these activities. This sister activity will partner with the government of Ghana to strengthen the planning, financing, and delivery of services under Ring 2. For example, Ring 2 system strengthening will help the local entities plan and implement their activities, strengthen the public financial management. For those who work in the details, we are using GIFMIS, which is the government's own financial management software, and monitor the work. So, I ask everyone here today to think about how they can make sure that Ring 2 is successful.
Upper West Region Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Sali, in his welcome address, stated that they have every reason to rejoice about the project as nutrition and resilience issues pose major challenges in their efforts to make life better for the people.
I am optimistic that this project launch will provide the appropriate ground to interact with key stakeholders in the nutrition subsector and learn more about this project and the operations of USAID. Therefore, I expect all stakeholders, especially the beneficiary municipal and district assemblies, to show more commitment, diligence, and ownership of this program.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Nadoli.
And that's it for the news, but stay with us. The news review is up next. Thank you for staying with us. Time now for us to get into the news review. We're joined by Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, political scientist and head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Doc, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us this Wednesday morning.
Good morning, my brother. How are you?
I'm very well. How about you?
Good.
Great. Any initial thoughts you'd like to share with us on any topic before we get into this bit? So, for example, we have a staff level agreement with the IMF, but of course we know that really doesn't mean much. It only means that we have our foot in the door. Beyond that, though, the mechanisms that must be triggered, the board must approve of this. Of course, the US has hinted that based on the key or crucial role Ghana plays in the sub-region, among others, they would be willing, since they are on the board, to give approval. But there are stages. There are things that must be done from our end. Are we going to be able to do them? When it comes to the debt exchange program, like the minority has pointed out in Parliament, certain documents should have been made available to parliamentarians by now. There's no evidence of that. So while we're looking for this money, the $3 billion, to hit our accounts at the start or in the first quarter of 2023, a lot still remains to be done, without which we cannot proceed on this matter. There's also the bit about the Ghana Cedi appreciating against three major currencies that it deals with, or we deal with. I'm talking about the American greenback, the Great British pound, and the European euro. But some of us have also had cause to ask whether all of this is not artificial, like sometimes the Chinese would do. Because even now that the dollar, for example, has fallen to below, almost 11 cedis per the Bank of Ghana, sometimes if you go out there and you try to exchange, you would realize that that is not the figure being used. But some have also mentioned, speaking to Seth Tekba the other day, he made mention of the fact that on the back of the cocoa syndicated loan, on the back of projections of an IMF deal, these will happen. The matter is sustainability. And even at 11, it still is very, very high. Your take maybe on these two matters before we get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, I will touch on the IMF deal and matters arising. If you look at how far we have come, I have said, and I'll repeat it here, it's born out of two things. One, failure of public policy. Two, indiscipline. All right. If you look at all that IMF trying to do for us is to give us resource and then ensure that there's discipline, financial discipline and all that. So if you look at how far we have come, the issue of indiscipline, if we are disciplined, we will not waste resources in this country. And evidence, there's a whole lot of evidence in the Auditor's General report that we have not managed our resources well. There is always waste. Two is the issue of corruption. Ghana Integrity Initiative has told us that close to $3 billion slipped through our fingers by way of corruption. If you manage that alone, do you think there will be the need to go to even IMF for a bailout? All right, that means that we need to step up our game there. If you look at the way we handle fuel, public office, and then vehicles and all that, there is something that we need to do in terms of prudence to ensure that we get the best results for ourselves. Look at issue of good governance. It requires that government size must always be kept minimal so that you can foot the bill. What we have here, as big as the size of the elephant of this party, a huge one, and that, duty bearers are not prepared, particularly Mr. President is not prepared to listen to any idea about it regarding reducing the size and whatnot. I think we must also look there if you want to. The little money that come to us by way of our revenue mobilization and whatnot, we are shying away. Toll booth system. I am happy that the government has eaten a hand.
Well, we have a little connectivity issue to do with Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Let's just give him a little time to see whether we can kickstart that conversation again. Doc, can you hear me now? Well, we'll try to resolve that glitch and come back to you. In the meantime, the Daily Graphic has these headlines. 80% poultry ventures fold up. That's according to the association. Remember that. 80%. Especially when we're talking about import substitution. And you know just how much we import when it comes to even frozen products, including chicken. And here we go. 80% poultry ventures fold up. What will this mean spilling over into 2023? And what will that mean for producing what we eat? Collapse of Capital Bank Atuesian avoids prison, court okays 90 million Ghana Cedi restitution agreement. Of course, there was talking here as well about the value back then and the value now and what he should be paying in reality. And some people have also said, like the judge hinted or intimated before, that this only serves as creating impunity in the system so that people can engage in nefarious activity and, just compromise people's lives. What happens to those who have lost their lives on the back of this? Those who took their own lives because they had lost everything in this. What happens to them? What happens to them? Accountability. So is this sort of setting the tone so that, you can do all of this and once you're able to pay back, you get away with it? Bigger than imagination, different every time. That's something else there, but it's a brand, so I'll not go to that. IMF to inject $3 billion into economy. First milestone achieved for extended credit facility. And Ioko retrieves 37 suspected stolen luxury vehicles. Story on page 16. Do we have Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante back? All right, so let's get into the stories now. And Ghana has secured a preliminary agreement with the International Monetary Fund for the injection of $3 billion into the economy over the next 3 years. The IMF support and the attendant programs are to help stabilize the economy and correct fiscal and monetary imbalances that have caused the Ghana Cedi to depreciate and the prices of goods and services to rise. The staff-level agreement for an extended credit facility was announced yesterday at a press conference jointly addressed by the government side and the IMF mission. Now let's take a quick look at the role of creditors. The announcement of the SLA followed 5 months of negotiations between the government and the IMF over a set of policies and programs needed to restore debt sustainability and general macroeconomic stability for prices and the local currency to stabilize. Now, Ghana's debt was assessed to be unsustainable, prompting efforts by the government to restructure the stock to help qualify for the IMF support. Mr. Oforiatta, yesterday at that presser, urged Labour and the country to rally behind the government in an effort to make the IMF program a success. Rally behind the country, we shall, Mr. Oforiatta, but if some of these policies are inimical to the interests of people, you can expect that, like the TUC is doing, people would rise up and kick against certain aspects of it. Because while we want the general good of the country, no, that's not the mentality. But the point too is, we cannot say that we're going to take this hook, line, sinker, wholesale, just because we're trying to rescue the country. Those policies in implementing this, it must not bring to bear undue hardship and suffering on the people. And that is exactly what the TUC is saying in respect of their pension funds. But in other stories, let's take a look at that story about poultry and the impact on our economy. The continuation is on 41. Okay, so let's get to that. Right. The increasing, so 80% of poultry ventures fold up. That's the story. And the increasing importation of cheap frozen chicken for the local market, coupled with the lack of adequate support to the industry in the country, has led to about 80% of poultry farmers' businesses folding up, with the rest struggling to cope. According to an EU data on chicken exports, Ghana has been the leading importer of chicken in Africa for the past 5 years. The leading importer of chicken in Africa, Ghana, for the past 5 years. 227,903 tons imported in 2021. In line with that, the Ghana National Association of Poultry Farmers has made a passionate appeal to the government and other stakeholders to intervene to save the sector from total collapse. The chairman of the association, Victor Opong-Ajay, who made the appeal, said apart from the high cost of inputs, unfair competition from importers of chicken had deprived the country of over 1 million jobs along the value chain. And we also know definitely, for example, we know some of those who are the biggest when it comes to importing chicken into the country. I'll not mention any brand, I'll not mention any person's name, but we all know these people. And there seems to be some sort of hijack of the system, and our local poultry industry is suffering. Doc, welcome back. So I just took that story on 80% of our poultry ventures folding up. In the meantime, guess what? Ghana has been the largest importer of chicken, imported chicken in Africa for the past 5 years. Ghana, small as we are, we're importing more of this than Nigeria, than South Africa, than Libya. Your quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, it ties into what I was saying, that if you look at the issue of indiscipline, this is part of the indiscipline. Why do we have our own poultry here? Our own farmers, developing poultry products for us, and yet we are not ready to patronize them. We rather want to go out and get more. If we are disciplined, we will not engage in that. More so, it is a public policy failure. In public policy, after everything, you examine the policy, whether it's working or not. If it's working, you maintain. If not, you amend it, and then if it is not the best, you throw it out. What has been government policy with regard to what? The issue of what we produce here. Do we consume them? All right. That tells you that we are not serious as a country, and that our policies are knee-jerk policies that don't intend to improve our law. So we'll make all the noise, and yet we'll do very little. I think that the IMF, they are bringing, as I already said, resources to us and ensure discipline. And then we want to make sure that our policies work. If we are not going to be disciplined, I'm afraid the IMF will make sure that we are disciplined. But my prayer is that when we are done, we get this thing
behind us and we move forward, we should take that discipline forward and maintain it so that we don't always go to the IMF at all. We need to stop that practice and make sure that we develop our own, however little, however small that contribution will make. Let's continue. Develop our own wood pottery, develop our own farmers, develop our businessmen and women so that in times of crisis, we can rely on them and they will support us through thick and thin.
Let's look at the Ato Essien issue. It's on page 16. And the Accra High Court has convicted founder of defunct Capital Bank, William Ato Essien, for stealing 192.5 million Ghana cedis of funds from the bank and ordered him to pay 90 million Ghana cedis to the state. By repaying the amount which was part of liquidity support to the Bank of Ghana granted to the bank, Essien will not be sentenced to prison terms or a prison term. Already the state has recovered 101.2 million Ghana cedis out of the 192.5 million, while Essien will pay 90 million Ghana cedis as restitution to the state. Essien pleaded guilty to 16 counts of stealing and money laundering and was accordingly convicted on his own plea by the court presided over by Justice Eric Chebafo. However, the convict avoided a custodial sentence after the court accepted an agreement between him and the prosecution for him, that is Essien, to pay the 90 million Ghana cedis. The story goes on and on. You can grab a copy of the Daily Graphic to get the details. But for me, my stance is clear, Dr. Kwame Asa-Asante. From the times of, if you recall, I've forgotten the name of that case, the situation. Victor Selame, if you remember, one of the longest serving ministers, and what happened to him, and a host of others who sometimes have been mired. Yes, Ato Essien may not be a minister of state, and I don't want to be in contempt of what the court has said. But I agree with those who say that if we set these precedents, we are giving life, giving wings to impunity, and for people to engage in some of these activities. How many people have died on the back of these actions? So I make restitution, I pay back the money, and that is it. I don't have anything against this person, but I feel if we go down that road, only God knows. Your quick take on that.
Yes, I think we have listened to the Deputy AG. He has thrown, you and I are not lawyers. It's in the best interest of this country. And that it is in tandem with the principle of rule of law, right? So on that score, I believe that I will not have much to say, but wait for the process to finish so that at the end of the day, we can take some lessons from it.
Well, it's practically finished, and he'll have to make those reimbursements to the state. But the point that must be made, Doc, in this instance, and of course I am a student of law, in this instance, what could happen is he could get either one or both. He could get to pay to make restitution and still serve time. So that is it is within the legal framework. It's a choice of where to go. But let's get into other stories. NDC to tighten security at National Congress. Alex Segbefia assures over this weekend that is coming off. But we saw what happened when they elected the national youth organizers and the women's organizers of the party. Dastardly scenes, some people getting shot, and now a list of 16 people to be apprehended on being pursued by the police. What do you make of those, and what are your expectations ahead of this weekend?
I think what we saw last weekend was an ugly spectacle, to say the least. And that you are going for a contest and you see violence. Why? If you are looking for power, you don't use means of violence to get in there. And then what happens if you get power? All right. But I'm happy that the party was able to work cordially with the security people, that Mr. Cedi himself praised the security for a very good performance put up that day. It is my hope and prayer that the party will continue to dialogue with the police and make sure that what they have ahead
of them in terms of the next program that is on Saturday will be incident-free. These things are doable if we will plan and plan well, and then we talk to our followers. I want the NDC as a party to send a clear signal that they will not condone violence. They will not support anybody who hide behind the party to come and inflict pain, cause disruption, and all that. Anybody that crosses that line, they should be able to hand him over to the police for the police to do their work. Democracy is a contest. At this level, you are only engaging in a contest, and the contest must be free of violence. So if you are an actor, a candidate for that matter, and you are contesting, all that you do is that you should be able to get your acts together, get your message right, get your resources in place, and get a strategy, and then win the election. If the people are ready to give you a vote, it doesn't matter how violent you are, they will not give you the vote. So once we remember that the choice is made by the electorate, you should be able to be sober and then listen to them and then give them the message that will resonate with them. We want to deal with the problems of Ghana. And this is what I tax politicians to always avert their minds to, that you must have solution for numerous problems. That is what matters. But violence and all that do not rule. It creates problems for us. And then at the end of the day, we are not a better people. I hope and pray that Saturday we will hear no negative story, because what we saw was nothing but an ugly spectacle.
All right. Two quick stories to wrap. Let's prevent conflict. NCCE chairman says so. Now, the chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education, Kathleen Addy, has called for concerted efforts to prevent political and chieftaincy conflicts, which were the main conduits for terrorist attacks. Quoting her, she says, "These terrorists are opportunists, so they look for signs of discord in society and insert themselves into existing disagreements and deepen them. They use that to launch themselves and cause mayhem." She therefore called for intensified sensitization and education, especially in border communities, to avert any incident of terrorism and violent extremism in the country. I want to also highlight this story. EOCO retrieves 37 suspected stolen luxury vehicles. And EOCO has retrieved 37 luxury vehicles from some members of the Vehicle and Asset Traders Association. The outfit said the vehicles were part of about 200 of such vehicles believed to have been stolen from Canada and the United States of America. The deputy director in charge of operations at the Economic and Organized Crime Office, Nanentry, said the vehicles being sold to unsuspecting persons were retrieved through a joint action with other security agencies following reports from the Federal Bureau of Investigation of the USA and Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Canada on the activity of some suspected criminals. On Friday, December 9, 2022, EOCO, in collaboration with the US's Federal Bureau of Investigation and the RCMP, carried out an intelligence-led operation for the retrieval of various specifications of luxury vehicles suspected to have been stolen from the USA and Canada. The story goes on and on. This wouldn't be the first time. I recall seeing, I've forgotten whether it was Nigeria or Ghana. I believe it was Ghana, because there was a luxury vehicle. I don't know whether it was a Ferrari, Lamborghini, Bugatti, one of those. And it had made its way all the way from one of these Western countries into Ghana. And that apparently is becoming a thing. And that is why, for some of us, I mean, I don't have the resources yet to buy some of these vehicles. But when sometimes I go around and I see these garages and the sort of cars they display, sometimes I ask myself, did these people purchase all of these vehicles? Because I hear through Togo and others, it's becoming a trend. What's your quick reaction to these two stories?
Yes, to start with the last one, I mean, kudos to the security people, EOCO, and all the security agencies who made this thing possible. I support them and I'm with them. Sometimes it leaves the ordinary man who wants to buy a car in doubt as to whether he's going to get a good deal, and then that deal will not create problems for him. You buy something and you are, apprehended for having legitimately acquired something that you have no idea its source and all that. So that difficulty, the security people are helping us, is a good one. And I like the global cooperation with regard to the fight against these things. It's a good one, so that whoever is hiding anywhere in the world Don't think that you are on holiday. A day will come that you'll be apprehended and put before court, and that's all. It is important that we do this. Time and again, if you talk to the customs division of DRA, they tell you that if we are so much interested in buying a car, it is important we get to them and then let them also do some checks. I have done that once before. I bought a car and I went to customs, they look at it and said, this is a good one, you can go. But as to whether everybody will have the time, the patience to do that, we should not be hurried to buy cars and all that. Sometimes we need to do this background check. It is good for ourselves and our country and all that. The issue of NCC urging Ghanaians to stay out of conflicts and then work to help the state to rid it of elements such as terrorists and all that is a good call. And I want NCC to do this more often so that the message will sink down, we will be alert, and then help the security to deal with any challenge that confronts us. Let us remember and that without we as a civil society or as a society, a civilian society for that matter, supplying information to the security agents, their work becomes so difficult, if not impossible. So it is a dual task that they all who also is charged with the responsibility of maintaining security in this country, but we also must assist them with information, genuine information, not information that will, lead them toward wild goose chase. No, information that will point to something meaningful, so that they can, through that, they can make use of it and then make our society better. Without them, we can't survive. But they also must work and then get our support, so that at the end of the day, the goals that we have in the preamble of the country's constitution, that we live in peace and in peace with ourselves and with other neighbors, will be a reality. I'm sorry.
All right, so I'm just taking a quick look at the story, still in the Daily Graphic, and then we'll blaze through the other papers. World record nonuplets return home to Mali. That is 9 babies born at the same time. They have safely returned home to Mali after spending the first 19 months of their lives in Morocco. The babies broke the Guinness World Record for the most children delivered in a single birth to survive. And you can check out details from the Daily Graphic. But I'd like you to quickly react to these stories as we proceed. The first one from the Daily Guide newspaper on page 3. Bagbin becoming a tyrant. That's according to the Minority Chief Whip, Mohamed Mubarak Muntaka, who has deployed an epithet against the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin, calling him a dictator. According to him, the Speaker is gradually turning the parliamentary chamber into a palace by increasingly becoming intolerant to disagreement. Quoting him, he says, "I'm sorry to say this, when you want to turn the chamber of parliament into a palace, then you become a tyrant." He is becoming a tyrant. You are not a chief. You are supposed to be the Speaker of Parliament, and a Speaker listens to both sides patiently, even when there is a disagreement. And that is the essence of democracy, to sometimes even agree to disagree. And he mentioned this right here on Joy News. There's also Bukom Banku and son remanded. Why? Let me bring you some details of that. Brima Isaac Kamoko, aka Bukom Banku, a Ghanaian professional boxer, has been remanded into police custody by an Accra Circuit Court for 1 week on the charge of abetment of crime. He is said to have abetted one Prosper Quay to cause harm to one Ishmael Quay at Bukom in the Greater Accra region. Bukom Banku was in the dock with one Mustafa Kamoko, his son, who was also facing the charge of causing damage. Then finally, there is also Mosquito vindicates EC, and I'm talking about Johnson Esiedun Kesie, a national chairman aspirant of the opposition NDC, who has given the strongest evidence ever that the party actually lost the 2020 general elections. In his view, the decision to go to court by former President John Mahama was baseless, and that it was just to cause disaffection between Jean Mensah, the chairperson of the EC, and the general public. And this is supposed to have come from some leaked tape. And that story is captured by the Ghanaian publisher. Your take on these 3 matters, whichever ones you choose.
Yeah, I'll start with Bagbin's story. All right, that the Honorable MP Mubarak is saying that. On what basis is he saying this? Because we are also watchers of the parliamentary programs. And for me, I have not seen anything of that sort. I haven't seen that. He is there every day, so maybe he's seen something that we are not privy to. But when we look at the speaker, I don't think he has that posture, all right? More often than not that I have seen him, he throws the issues to the chamber, discussion is held and all that. So I think that the Honorable MP's comments, he's taken it too far. I'm not sure that anybody can be a dictator in this country. You may have the tendency, but if we are mindful of the rules of the game, I can assure you, nobody can be a dictator. We have said that the president, or every president in this country, by the architecture of this country's constitution, has numerous powers and all that, and sometimes too much powers. That I disagree with that position, even at that national level, because for every power, that is a corresponding limitation on its powers, all right, through laws, through standing orders, and what above all, there is also the popular sovereignty. We, the people who put them there, we have powers. I mean, we have powers that go to limit also what is given to them by the laws of this country. So I don't think that the speaker is becoming a dictator. No, that one I disagree with respect. I don't think so. If the Honorable MP feels so strongly about it, and then he knows what to do, why can't you also take some of the actions to court? That this is the law and you are going against it. Then you can issue what, a writ that will bring the speaker down in terms of going beyond his powers and all that. But for what he's saying, I'm sorry to agree with him. If we look at the Cedi Nketiah's issue, the tape and all that, I don't know how authentic is that tape. So I believe that at this level, we can treat it as one of the rumors. If there is the need to go into it in detail, then I think it's more of forensic audit, and that will reveal whether it is a truism or not. But at the moment, I believe that it must be discounted. We move on until it is proven otherwise.
All right, we move, huh? Well, let's wrap with these two papers. The Chronicle, Ghana was honest with us, says IMF, after reaching staff-level deal with Oforiatta and team. I like how some of our newspapers couch certain things depending on what the outlook is, but I'll reserve my comments on this. There's also Atuesian escapes custodial sentence, and infighting rules NDC. Our win chief's petition interior minister. And finally, the Custodian newspaper, we're fighting corruption. That's according to Vice President Bawumia. Again, I have my own take on this, and the metrics themselves from the Afrobarometer and others will show whether, in fact, we're making any gains against corruption. And when you look at public sentiment, and I believe the last one that was conducted by the Ghana Statistical Service, I think, and the United Nations, obviously point to the fact that even in reality, we are not making gains against corruption. But that's the story. We're fighting corruption. The Vice President says so. Atuesian's story is also here. And dogfight in NDC as Cedi Nketiah supposedly drops 2020 election secrets. Final words for us?
Yes, I'll look at corruption. And it is one of the critical indices for ensuring effective governance. All right. As to whether we are winning the fight or not, what the papers are saying, I disagree vehemently. The records are there for everybody to see. Ghana Integrity Initiative has told us that every year we lose close to $3 billion to corruption. Are you winning such a fight? If you had that opportunity, would you go to IMF and ask for same there? I'm not sure we are winning. What is more is the records that are captured within the Transparency International that put this country from 2013 up to today, that yes, we are doing something little. We are not winning the fight. If you take, for instance, 2021, the Corruption Perception Index on the Transparency International website is 43%. And then the closer you are to zero, the more corrupt you are. And so 43, you are closer to zero. Denmark and Co.
They are up there as leaders, clean. The closer you are to 100, you are more clean. So I think that it is fair to say that this government has done a lot to lessen the situation. But unfortunately, corruption is still rife here. So I believe that the way forward is to walk the talk. There's more talk shop in the fight against corruption than the real action. Let our leaders be serious. Let us know that this is the canker that is sending us to what is part of the variables that are pushing us to the IMF. Right. And that the earlier we nip it in the bud, the better it will be for us. And we should also remember that it is one of the factors that influence voter choices. Right. In fact, if you rank them, it is the third important variable for a voter to decide as to who should govern him. So we as a society, we as political party actors, we should be able to look at these things and deal with it head on and stop the lip service.
Thank you, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, for joining us. You always make this so beautiful. Thank you for joining us this Wednesday morning, and have the best of the day.
I wish you a good day.
I wish you the same. And that is Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, political scientist and head of the Center for European Studies. Lionel Messi messed up Croatia yesterday, and they thrashed the Croatians, the Europeans, by 3-0, 3 unanswered goals. But my prediction is that Messi will make it to the finals, but Argentina will lose. And that's my prediction. I'm entitled to it. There's more coming your way in sports as we also contemplate the other semi-final clash today, France versus Morocco. Stay with us.
Good morning and thank you for joining us for sports this morning. My name is Abigail Senasus. We'll begin in Qatar because Argentina will play either France or Morocco in the final after they beat Croatia 3-0 last night. Lionel Messi opened the scoring from the spot before Julian Alvarez grabbed another. The Manchester City forward Alvarez then added a third after the halftime break following a sensational solo run from Messi. Well, my colleague George Addo Jr. was at the Lansah iconic stadium and father's report after that game against Argentina and Croatia.
So Argentina are through to a second final in 8 years. Lionel Messi led his charges to beat Croatia by 3-0. In the process, Argentina have managed to keep the record of not losing a semi-final at the World Cup and in history. In 1930, they lost to Uruguay in the final. Yes, in 1978, they won the competition. In 1986 as well, they won the competition. In 1990, they lost out to Germany. In 2014, they lost out to Germany. And as we know, in 2022, they're back in the final. What a special game tonight. Many thought Croatia were going to give Messi and Argentina a lot of work to do. Indeed, in the first half, they proved in the first 20 minutes that there will be a difficult side to crack down. But Argentina's direct play meant they had 2 quick goals from Lionel Messi from the spot and Alvarez from a counter-attack. That ended the first half with 2 goals. In the second half, another masterpiece by Messi, dribbling and laying it up for Alvarez to score his brace, and the third for Argentina. Argentina will wait for the winner of France-Morocco and will be hoping that Lionel Messi can lay his hands on the trophy for the first time in his career. This has been on, and loads of the fans who came here were chanting, hoping that Lionel Messi was going to win this game. He did win it, and it means Argentina have got a chance. George Addo Jr. reporting from the Lusail Stadium, where Argentina have crossed over to the final after beating Croatia by 3-0.
And the numbers are working in favor of arguably the best footballer in the world. I'm talking about Lionel Messi. And back home, our Joy Prime pundits were also not short of those praises for the football god after that game.
If he wins it, fine. If he doesn't win the World Cup,
doesn't change anything.
It changes anything. Look, in my era, I think he's the best player I've seen. Those who didn't...
The last 17 years...
I didn't live to see... Yeah, I saw Maradona in 86, but I was very young. Very, very young at the time. But when we're playing around the street of Ghana, it's all about Diego. We just go and watch for the sake. But when we started falling and understanding football, this is the best I have seen. Like I said, I would have just opposed him alongside Ronaldinho, but his span was so short.
Was a different beast.
So I don't want to go there. But look, I don't think there's any player. You want to thank Cristiano Ronaldo for the competition he's given to the young man. I think the two of them, they've complemented each other for making sure that they reign and they stay at the top. But if you ask the two of them, honestly, if you want to be sincere with yourself, Ronaldo himself would admit, and this is the goal.
David.
He's a Ronaldo.
To be honest, I can't deny it. Like, Messi is one of the greatest players in the world.
An incredible player.
It's amazing what he does with the boys. You can't even think about it. You can't even understand.
Yeah.
Like, even the way he plays, everything shows he's one of the greatest. And winning the trophy on Sunday will just be a bonus. He already cemented his place already. So the trophy will just be a bonus for him.
So back home, there's been some changes to the women's technical team as well. And so the Black Princesses will now be led by Yusuf Pasigi, assisted by Nana Adakwa and Anita Redu. The goalkeepers trainer is going to be Raymond Fenny, and Dr. Mabel Aboa is now the team doctor for the Black Princesses of Ghana. Asabia Opari is a physiotherapist, and then Susie Jolito is the nurse of the side. Aisha Bukari becomes the welfare officer, and Genevieve Clotte is the equipment officer for the new constituted Black Princesses technical team. That'll be all for sports this morning. Thank you for watching.
Well, thank you for staying with us. We get into our big stories now, starting with that tangent of the economy. We have a staff-level agreement with the IMF now. What does all of that imply? What does it mean moving forward? We'll also be talking about, and I'm going to use the word happily, exploits of the Ghana Cedi against the three major trading currencies. I'm talking about the Great British Pound, I'm talking about the American greenback and the European euro. Gains made in the last few weeks. It is appreciated by about 20% in 2 weeks. But we ask critical questions on that. Is this a good omen? Definitely it's positive for us, but how do we sustain this? What is accounting for it in the first place? Is this artificial? I mean, street value versus Bank of Ghana rates and all of that. We're going to digest all of that right here. Before I introduce the guests to you, let me also mention that I'm joined in the studio by my colleague, Bernice Abu-Baidoo, Lansah. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
You're looking all maroon this morning.
Yeah. I felt like it when I woke up. So
what's that color again? Your earrings. I'm trying to get the... I'll find it.
This guy's always up to mischief. I mean, can you smell Christmas now?
My nose is still blocked, and the sort of what I would have looked for, I didn't find. But I'll tell you what, yesterday I was at Conversations in the Cathedral as a Catholic, and it was fantastic. That did it for me. The speakers there and the things they said about he was in swaddling clothes and mothering in Ghana and all of that, that did it for me. Apart from that, Charlie, I remember going by this place yesterday and seeing one of those roundabouts and lighting and everything, but it was just so different. I don't know what it was, but I just couldn't feel
Well, let's hope that with the Cedi's current performance against the dollar and other major trading currencies, we will begin to see the impact and feel Christmas. But on social media, look, the reactions, there are some who were like, why is it so sudden, you know? I put up a question on my Facebook page and I asked if the announcement of the staff level agreements had anything to do with the Cedi's performance. We know that it was doing well, but all of a sudden from 11, 10, 9 within a matter of hours, that was quite
that
fast.
9 figure, I don't...
There's somebody who's shown a receipt.
From 13 to, I think, 12 point something, then 12, within like 2 days. And that was pretty interesting. And now it's supposedly around 11 officially. I don't know, which is why I'm going to be asking as well whether these are, because there are artificial manipulations. Internationally, we know countries do that. But what would that mean? Anyway, let's get into our guests and find out what they have to share with us. Benjamin Akakpo is National Welfare Secretary with GUTA. He joins the conversation. We also have Samson Asaki Awingobit, Executive Secretary, Importers and Exporters Association, joining the conversation. I'll start with you, Samson. So, first of all, I'd like to find out, what do you make of the Cedi, the plummet of the international currencies vis-a-vis the Cedi? What do you make of it? And what is your reaction? How is that, impacting your business?
Well, thank you very much, Benjamin. Good to see you. You and my very good friend, your colleague Lady Day, just last week I graduated from Methodist University, and the two of you came on Monday. You didn't even congratulate me, so I congratulated myself. If you won't do, and then if you won't do.
Congratulations, Samson. It's just because we weren't even aware, but congratulations.
That's all right. That's all right. I must say it was a bigger program, and I'm proud to be a past student, alumni of Methodist University, and congratulations to all those the 700 and over students that were graduated from Methodist University last Saturday, and to all the management and staff of the school. We are such a grateful, and the board and the council, we are such a grateful to them. And our guest who came, Honorable Brian Achampa, who came, who was a special guest, we thank him for honoring the school invitation. We are much grateful to him. Back to the question. It must be, or it should be, a good news to every Tom, Dick, and Harry of this country. It should be a good news to government, of course. It has been one of the cardinal points that every business community, every academia, every currency watchers, researchers, advocates all over the world has been looking to see how and what government was going to put in place to bring back confidence to the business community, to bring back confidence to the city. And we're all asking, is that the best of the government? Is that where we're going? Were we heading to a dig? Yet, thankfully, I don't know, strategically, government have not spoken. And I'm sure you are very much aware that government hasn't commented on this, be it from the Minister of Information, or be it from the Minister of Finance, or be it from the Bank of Ghana point of view. I have not cited any government official statement as to what measures that they have put in place actually that have actually brought us back to our feet. And within the space of 4 days or so, we are seeing about one series $20, 20 pesos or so appreciation of the cedi as against the dollar. And this morning, I think I was hearing to morning news when I heard that selling the dollar at the bank level is 10 cedis to $1. And so it means something has been done. We will ask the question, we want to know. And then, as you said, it is not usual that in December you will see a dollar cedi appreciating against the dollar. We are looking at the bigger future. The bigger future is after Christmas, what will happen to the cedi and to the dollar. So
just to hold you on that point, Samson, just to hold you on that point you made, you say, and rightly so, that it's not usual to see the cedi gaining against foreign currency, the pound, the euro, the dollar. What then do you think is at play?
Well, that's what we don't know. That's what you and I will have to ask questions. And that's why government has been silently about it. I've also seen petroleum product also dropping. I'm sure you saw it drop about last week. And then I think this week was yesterday too. We saw another figures coming down. So the best person to ask, I don't know if it's about the gold to the Saudi, the Kuwait people, that Ghana was going to trade gold with them, in barter trading, will give you gold to give us oil, has started. But I know that the vice president said that was going to begin somewhere 2023 or so, or thereabout. So, and we all know that IMF negotiation that concluded yesterday to the finance minister gave it the address, also made it clear that that facility, and I've heard the leader of the IMF team saying that if Ghana give them finance or approve the financial acquisition of the, what do you call it, I think if Parliament has approved the 2023 budget or so, they will also go, and then if Ghana shows them the evidence, they'll go and present their report to IMF board, and then it will be approved. So which means IMF is not even coming, maybe we don't know whether by end of January, by end of February, or by end of first quarter, that we will be having IMF being approved for us. So, or we have IMF, even if it's been approved, what time will be the tranche? It's going to come in tranches, because it's not, the $3 billion is not going to come at a go, isn't it? It's going to come maybe quarterly by quarter or half year by half year. I don't know how that's going to be done. But point clearly, what I'm trying to establish here is that we have not seen any, I have not studied any document. I have not come across any government trying to lay out what government has done strategically. If you ask me, at the back of my mind, what I will say is that maybe perhaps, you remember the Bank of Ghana came out to say that as part of measures to control the cedi depreciation and whatever, and to make our economic growth, is to, Bank of Ghana was not willing and prepared to help or to support or to upload forex to the commercial banks as a matter of fact, to be able to release it to those who will be bringing in importers who would like to bring toothpaste, rice, cooking oil, and stuff like that, you remember. And so that became a talk of town. And so I don't know, maybe if this commodity that the Bank of Ghana described as non-essential commodity used to take a chunk of our dollar out, and because of that, because they are no more going to get that chunk of dollar, there's much more dollar at the Bank of Ghana, and the Bank of Ghana is releasing it, but giving strict directives to the banks, then perhaps that has brought it stability out.
Okay, so
if
for
that's
now,
the case, then we should be thinking about a hunger that will loom on us, because I have not seen any statistics for Bank of Ghana or the Ministry of Agriculture be able to tell us what are the statistics of maize we have in stock, what are the statistics of rice we have in stock, what are the statistics of vegetable oil that we have in stock that will be able to feed the country. If the government, so be it, hold it that they will not release the forest to the commercial bank to support importers of these commodities to go and bring them. So meaning that the already existence or the already availability of those commodities, when it ran out of stock and we are not getting forest to go and bring it, then you and I are going to have, or Ghanaians are going to take a branch of it. So
Right. Samson, let's move the conversation forward. I don't want us to dwell too much on this. I think your point is clearly made. I just want to find out from you, these rates that we are seeing now, whether it is the 9 cedis some people purport on social media, or 10 cedis or 11 cedis, is that reflecting, are these rates reflecting in your business? Because you export, you import. Is it reflecting as of the current business you're doing? Are these rates that low for you when it comes to the dollar and other hard currency? Just a very brief answer on
that. So what Bank of Ghana, what custom used to do is custom used to use the Bank of Ghana rate, which we all know that the Bank of Ghana rate is lower as compared to the commercial banks or the open market. But later, sometime earlier this year or so, the Bank of Ghana, the custom dropped the Bank of Ghana rate, and they were using the commercial bank's rate to be using. Sometimes the commercial bank is a little bit higher than the Bank of Ghana rate. Now, what I did in my checks yesterday, because of when Gupta issued that statement, I decided to find out what is happening in our port, because just like your reporter interviewed the man at, I think, one of the market centers, and then he made clear that, okay, I bought the dollar at 15 cedis, I've paid duty at high, I brought the goods, how will I be able to reduce it? And then that will affect the person. I tried to find out, okay, as people who were supposed to pay duty at the Tema port as of Monday, and because at the port the exchange rate converts every Tuesday. So if you were holding $100,000, $100,000 Ghana is duty to pay, and you couldn't pay, and by Tuesday, by Tuesday yesterday, what I was told is that the reflection, I think when the media were reporting about, is it 11 or 12 customers were using 12 cedis in calculating the duty at the port. So it means that if customers were using 13 point something to calculate your duty for you as of last week, and you could not pay up to Monday, then on Tuesday, it should have moved like 14. Customers should have moved the rate from 12.13.5 to like say 14 or 15 cedis, but they didn't.
Right.
So it then ran back from the 13.5 to 12. So meaning your duty will also automatically converted back to the current rate that customers were using. So we saw a reduction of that, because if they assess your duty based on 13 point something, and now it is 12, meaning your duty will have to come down. So that we have seen that in the port yesterday.
All right, let me just briefly engage Mr. Yeboah, Welfare Secretary with Guta as well on that same point. Are you facing similar concerns? So someone may say, I bought the dollar at 15 cedis, purchased items from whichever country, brought them into the country, and paid duty, all of that. And all of a sudden, a few days later, the currency starts depreciating. Do I now reduce the cost of my items? I can't do that. I'll run at a loss. Is that something your members are grappling with as well, Mr. Yeboah?
Definitely so. I mean, it's a normal trade practice or business practice. I mean, if you bought items at a particular price, it will be difficult for you to reduce lesser than your cost price. I mean, it's natural. So that is the problem we are facing as traders now. So the way the things shot up, which we thought it was abnormal, the same way it is coming down in terms of the cedi-dollar relationship. Now the dollar is tumbling. I mean, if you go to some forex bureaus, they will tell you they don't even have the cedis to change your dollar. We checked yesterday, and that was what was going on. So yes.
Wait. You're saying Forex Bureau are saying they don't have CDs to change for your dollars?
Yes, I checked personally, and you go to Subway, they will tell you they don't even have the CDs for you to, change your dollar. So that is what is also happening. This Benjamin, these kind of things, people were saying at that time when the dollar was shooting up, that speculations can also drive such things, and therefore what is happening can also be reduced to be safe. So that is the uncertainty that is on that market now. And definitely as traders, we are all being careful. Yes, we appeal to our members that if there's a possibility of doing some reduction because Christmas is near and, goodwill, you see what you can do. But definitely it's going to be a bit difficult. I mean, if the trend continues, like we have seen, and is sustained, definitely then we can then calculate and you might see prices coming down in some few months to come.
So tell me briefly, right before my colleague Bernice comes in to engage you, so the way the dollar, in fact, the major currencies have fallen against the cedi, what do you think is going on, and how is that impacting your business as traders for now? What has been the impact?
Yeah, you see, definitely, like my brother Samson said, it will be difficult pinpointing it. There might be a lot of factors. I mean, buying the gold with Ghana cedis by Bank of Ghana, or the purported idea of using gold to buy oil, and all those, or government checking its fiscal policy right, and all that. There might be a lot of reasons for that. Definitely, they are the best people to come and explain to us what they are doing right that is causing that. But definitely, yes, the impact is going to have on our business is that it is now going to put pressure on us as to how we calculate our things. Because definitely if someone bought at a rate of 13 plus or 14 plus and the goods are now just about to arrive, maybe the Bank of Ghana rate that they use at the customs use at the port is what might, give some positiveness to the trader. But then the cost is already. But striking the balance is going to be difficult, but definitely as traders, that is what we do best. We are managers. So we'll see how best we can strike it so that we don't lose too much, and then we'll also be able to get our money's worth then build on, then we can, import again early next year or after the Chinese holiday. Then we see how it goes. But sustaining this, reduction is key, so that, we will know that that is how it is going to stay. Then we can plan well. But now, it's quite a bit difficult.
Right. Mr. Yeboah, is that to suggest that it's difficult for you to predict if this decline will be sustainable? I remember at the time when the cedi was depreciating at such a fast rate, we were told by the analysts and business owners that it was difficult to predict what it will look like in the coming days. Is that still the situation?
Well, now, so you see the opposite happening now. Now it's coming down. So definitely, truly, it's going to be difficult to predict. And then the fear now is that when it was going up, the people were edging their prices higher to try and, be at par. But now that is coming down, those that have old stocks and then with high prices that imported. Now the difficulty is how you are going to balance it and ensure that you still remain relevant on the market and also not to lose out too much. So yes, the prediction is going to be very, very difficult. But we are hoping that, with that business agreement that we all have over the years, traders will be able to manage the situation.
Interesting. Just on the point where you mentioned that it was difficult to get CDs, I have seen people post pictures of forex bureaus in this country that are saying that CDs aren't available. What do you think should be done to remedy that situation? Obviously, the Bank of Ghana will have to step in, but if that doesn't happen, what is the likely impact for you as businesses?
Well, you see, that is where, like somebody said, the Bank of Ghana or the finance ministry should come out quickly. So that, these kind of things, when they happen, it puts everyone on edge. Mm-hmm. Then there's a problem. So it will be difficult pinpointing what should be done. But at least, as leaders of the economy, they should come out with some sort of explanation so that it brings some ease to people, and then people can look at what they are saying and see how we can plan our way around. Because now it will be difficult. If they don't have the CDs to buy your dollar, or you go to a forex bureau and they are telling you, come back later in the afternoon, we'll see if you can get CDs for you. Then they are going to have a problem. But then those who are having the dollars and they bought the dollars at high price, they are now panicking to try and offload it before they lose out. And that is, I think, what is also, contributing to what is happening. It's the real situation we have on our hands.
Right. There are some who have suggested that the announcement of Ghana reaching a staff-level agreement with the IMF and other factors, like Mr. Awingobet has mentioned, the BOG offering forex support to some BDCs and other importers of essential items, could be the reason we are seeing what we are seeing. Just your quick thoughts on the IMF deal and the concerns being raised by some unions and organized labor about how it would affect the general welfare of its members, considering that pensions are going to be used in that debt exchange program. Just your quick thoughts on that.
Well, you see, the point is that definitely if, there's this talk about the IMF 3 billion coming in and other support programs that government is trying to do, definitely to have that impact on whatever businesses we are doing, or the people will project that there's going to be more dollars, and therefore if I have mine that had a higher price, I should be careful, otherwise I'm going to lose out. In terms of whatever that the IMF is doing with government and is, affecting pensions and all that, it's for government to come out clearly and explain further so that people can be put at ease. Because, you have, these organized labor talking about expressing their fear about what it can impact on their, pensions. And then government also, at the background also saying otherwise. But there should be a clear-cut policy statement that can allay fears. And then I think it's quite important, especially with this, serious decline of the dollars against the cedi. There should be a statement as soon as possible from government for people to understand what is happening and the clear-cut in terms of the pensions and other related issues.
Cedi was depreciating, and I visited the Opera Square and Okaishi, there were a lot of complaints by traders there because importers were sending them messages sometimes overnight telling them we've adjusted our prices, and they had to reflect, those had to reflect on the prices of goods that they had already purchased. The argument was that, yes, we already purchased these items, but if we do not put the new difference with the dollar to CD ratio on it, we'll run at a loss and we will not be able to go and get more goods. Now, the reverse happens, and naturally people are expecting that what happened when the cedi was depreciating will happen now that it's beginning to perform better against the dollar and other major trading currencies. But there appears to be a problem with the reverse, because then businesses also say they will run at a loss. There are some who've suggested that there should be some form of mechanism generally in calculating the pricing of goods for traders. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with any mechanism that would give pricing of items to traders. The business or the normal, buy, sell, demand, supply should come to play, and to naturally adjust price. There shouldn't be any special mechanism to adjust it. Look, the point is, if you are having the cedi, depreciated and the dollar increasing, it's a little bit easier to always edge your price just to ensure that it can cover the continuous depreciation. But then now that you bought the items are there at the higher price that you bought them, and then now the cedi is now appreciating. It makes it difficult to now reduce the items that you bought at a higher price, which you know definitely you will lose. And therefore, as a business person, you should then know that, look, if I'm going to import some now and I'm able to get some dollars from my bankers, which I can, do transfer for them to my suppliers, then I know I can envisage that those that are coming down would now have a price tag. Then I can, do my mathematics and see that, look, with that price tag, if it should come in now, since I've now gotten some transfer out, then I know that then what I have in, I can strike a balance, reduce it a bit, so that what is coming, when the imported ones that are coming in with a lesser price tag can reflect on the older one in my stock that has a higher price. Then I strike a bargain. It's a dicey issue.
Right.
Which
clearly
you have to really plan well.
Right.
So you don't really lose.
So, Mr. Yeboah, how does Guta, with all that is happening, clearly we see that there are those who may take advantage of situations like these to either bring undue or unfair, that's the word, unfair competition. So someone may decide that let me just bid my price down so bad that my other colleagues will not get any market, everybody will rush to me. And on the other side, there are those who would increase their prices so high in the case of a depreciation and take advantage of the customers. Does Guta have any way of ensuring that your members do not take undue advantage in situations like these?
Well, since we don't have that price mechanism system, the only thing that Guta does is to appeal. And any good business person strives on turnover. I mean, definitely, if you increase your price too much, and others are also having fears a little lesser, they will have a better turnover. And we are all going for prices from different sources. So that makes it a difficulty in trying to put any price mechanism into the system. But whatever it is, as we've done all these years, definitely it will be taking that equilibrium that people can be able to price well. And we will move on. I mean, yes, it's quite new to us to have the cedi depreciate quickly over a short time. And now same reversal is happening. It's difficult for us, but we will definitely manage as we go along. But definitely government should come out with a statement that will give us all an idea of what is happening and how sustainable what they are doing is. And then we can be able to plan very well.
Let me also come to you, Samson. So we've discussed the issues to this point where, in fact, we have an IMF program in terms of a staff level agreement. Now, the dynamics of that, let me just make it clear. We don't have a program yet. It is an understanding. It's more like a gentleman's understanding that we have our foot through the door on this, but there is a lot more that we have to do before we actually get funding, board approval and all of that culminating the entire process. So let me find out from you, the two of you gentlemen, how optimistic are you that we're going to get an IMF program, and what are you hoping that would mean for you, the business community, as traders and as importers and exporters? I'll start with you, Samson.
Needs to talk to me, eh? The point is, we as a country, of course, I speak for importers and exporters. I do research for import and export issues in this country. Why would we fight against government policies that would make Ghana grow our own, have sufficient to feed ourselves, and have surplus for export? I strongly believe that we should be able to push for that. But as I said to you the last time, some of these policies get like your boy have just cited example, like people go to change their forest itself, and the forest producers are saying that they don't even have the city. So is it a deliberate attempt by the Bank of Ghana directing commercial banks do not give any currencies to local currencies to the forest bureau again? That will end up going to the black market, so that they will, based on black market speculations, the dollar is very volatile. So we'll hold the city. If they have the dollar, they'll bring it to us, and so we'll get a dollar. Then we'll not allow it to go out to the black market again. I think it could be one of the reasons. The other aspect is that yes, if the IMF approved the facility for Ghana, I think they said there's a homegrown policy or show, and I'm sure that was one of the measures why they said they were not going to allow the Bank of Ghana to give forex to the commercial banks to give to importers to go and bring certain commodity. My fears here is that. What comes next year if our people are no more bringing it? Because there's a gap, and whatever importation that comes here comes to fill up that gap, and that is making Ghana not running into food insecurity, and we cannot afford at this point in time. The precious mineral all over the world now is food, and we know that the crisis between the Ukraine and Russia issues. There has been the food shortages all over, and countries are put up mechanism in place to make sure that at least. I remember, I think around the COVID-19 or one of the area, the Vietnam and others were holding on to their rice export because what was the reason? The reason was to make sure that they have availability of those food to sufficient for their nationalities. And so, if government is taking the policy to make it sure that at least they cushion Ghanaians, at least they make sure that Ghana can produce more and then feed ourselves, and if there's surplus we look for. Now that we have come to African Continental Free Trade Area, that is giving us opportunity to trade among 54, 53 states among ourselves. What do we position ourselves for? So I have no problem, but some of these short-term policies, short-term measures will not be able to help. I strongly believe that we should look at into medium to long-term, because if you tell me that don't bring rice and secondary schools are crying, and you say there are local producers of rice, and we don't have those local producers of rice in the secondary school to feed the secondary schools, our children, and our children are crying, and teachers, headmasters are asking PTA to come in and support. Where do you go from here? I strongly believe that the government will have to really look at these policies. Yes, we agree that IMF should come, but already my industry has been hit so hard. As we speak now, you are clearing the goods at the port, you have to pay a VAT of about 15%. You remember, the VAT has moved from 12.5. If this budget, this 2023 budget is being approved now, the 12.5 will be moved from 12.5 to 15%. Then the get fund is there, the health insurance is there, and then we come to do at sales. That's input tax we are paying. Then at sales, at output tax, we are going to tax us another 15% plus 2.5 get fund and health insurance and COVID-19. Then the cascading effect that it will get to the final consumer. There's a cost element. When you make a claim of the input tax of 12.5, or if it becomes the 15%, there's still a difference. When you strike it, when you add 12.5, 2.5, 2.5, 1% COVID-19 levy, it becomes like, I think, 90.2. You subtract the 12.5, there's a cost component, which we are asking government at least, can government hold it somewhere or do something with that 6%? That is a cost to the business community. So you see, these are the variables that people have to look at. That was why I raised an issue in regards to my colleagues from Guta that they shouldn't have issued that statement in a haste way, saying that business people should reduce, because you have to look at the factors surrounding what happened and where we are now. Those who the dollar at 15 cedis, those who went and paid the duty at 13 plus, and the cargo is those goods is locked at the warehouse. They have to offload those goods then maybe from now for Easter quotations, no one will tell, because if the dollar, and that is why we now put the government to test to see whether would they be able to hold it where we are till it will cross January, February, March. They will say, well, then the government has done good. But if you haven't studied the thing, you haven't known how the trend is going to go, then we start saying reduce your prices, and tomorrow the dollar come back to where it is. Will we come back to say this will increase the prices? I don't think we would like to do that. Yes, so far I want to appreciate government effort or what government is doing, and I'm saying that up to now, it could be a deliberate that government have decided to hold the city, say, I will hold the city rather, and see whether if the forest people will get money to do a change. Then it will compel everybody to come to the bank. So if you go to the bank, there's an interbank rate, okay? Because if I go to Alaji, if I hold my dollar, my hard dollar, and I go to Alaji doesn't have the city to give me. So I'll be compelled to go to the bank, interbank to change. So I'll go to interbank to change at the interbank rate. Then the foreign will remain in the bank. Then of course that means government is closing down black market by extension, foreign group by extension to black market. So when that is collapsing,
do you suspect, Samson, that is what is happening, especially as people are complaining that they're going to the Forex Bureau with their dollars and can't get CDs? Do you suspect that is what is happening?
I said, let Bernice talk to me. You don't need a soothsayer to tell you that that's what government intends to do. Because if you are holding the Forex now, the dollar now, you hear the news that, oh, black market is about 14 cedis to the dollar. Oh, if you go to interbank, it's about 10 cedis. This one is 10 cedis, isn't it? So you go to the black market, and whether it's 13 cedis or even 12 cedis, you go to the black market, you have the dollar, they tell you, I don't have the cedis to give you. So you come back to go to the bank, because it's only the bank that you go and get the cedis. So where will you go? You go there at that lower rate. So, of course, those who are hoarding it can be another strategy to punish those who are hoarding the dollars.
Okay.
That, the appreciation by Christmas, it will go to like 20 cedis, then I'll make more money. But people are going to make the money. Those who were smart make the money, and those who are not smart will lose. And
all
so
right.
the government has put up the measure.
Mr. Awingobit.
This measure is a silent measure.
All right.
Yes.
We're grateful for your time. We don't have all the time, so we have to move the conversation on. But we're grateful, Samson Asaki Awingobit. He is Executive Secretary for the Importers and Exporters Association. Let's now hear from Mr. Yeboah, National Welfare Director of GUTA. On that same point, very briefly, and do you agree with Mr. Awingobit when he says that? So there is a move. So if you want to exchange, these are the measures that have been put in place, supposedly, by the central bank, but that would also have spin-off consequences on the market. What is your brief take on that?
So, like Samson is saying, he is talking about, that what he is assuming. But we would prefer that we get that kind of explanation from the Bank of Ghana itself for us to know exactly what is going on. Otherwise, we will just also be assuming and speculating. So, it's a dicey situation. It's been a turbulent year, and it's ending like a soap opera with series, which is quite dramatic. But then we just pray and hope that this city appreciating is sustainable, because then it can have some positiveness for our economy, generally, and that is so good for everyone. But then if we have that clear policy direction as to how it's being done, then we can also plan well, because there's definitely getting items also coming down. It's a good thing for everyone. It's a good thing for you, Benjamin, as a consumer, and definitely it will help everyone. But then it shouldn't be such that it can be another, mirage, and then we can go back to the city depreciating again, and that can be chaotic for us. So let us hear from the central bank, and then know exactly what they're meant to do. Then we can plan well.
Benjamin Akakpo, Director of Welfare at GUTA. At this point, let me introduce two guests who've joined the program. Dr. Priscilla Chumesi Bafor is an economist with the University of
Ghana.
Right? And then we have Stephen Amwa, MP for Inshayaso, popularly called Sticker. Good morning to you.
And also on the Finance Committee of Parliament.
Most important, yes. Then that's why he's here this morning. Dr. Chumesi, good morning to you. Great to have you here. Let me take your initial reactions to what we are seeing with the Cedi's performance against the dollar.
Indeed, when you look at what is happening globally, you can tell that the dollar is beginning to lose its stronghold. In recent times, the dollar had been very strong against all currencies. But in about the last week or two, you see that the dollar is beginning to weaken. And when you come home, you can clearly tell that the Cedi is also appreciating against the dollar. So that is the global scene. On the domestic front, I believe that there was a lot of speculation that led to the significant increase in the demand for dollar at the time that the dollar was up that sharply. But that said, based on the fact that the country is now engaged and has made an advancement in that engagement with the IMF, all those speculative activities are coming down. And rightfully so, around this time, a lot of importers have already placed their orders, so there's not much demand. And people are also coming home for the festive season, so they are also bringing in a lot of forex. So all these culminate into the seemingly strong performance we see with the Cedi against the dollar.
Bernice, just a quick interjection. So you've mentioned two very important things. You say that people may have imported what they would already, and so there's not much pressure, and that could be accounting for the appreciation of our local currency. But you used this word, seeming appreciation. Why do you contextualize it like that? I ask because when we're speaking to Samson Asaki at Wingobit a short while ago, he said that if this were able to be sustained till January, February, March, then we could call it some good work by government. Is that how you feel as well? Is this sustainable?
Exactly. To a large extent, it will be sustained when we find that the economic fundamentals are moving in the right direction. For example, you see that the sharp depreciation we experienced in a few months ago, indeed, was what was happening on the market, but there was a lot of speculative activity that was also going on, in the sense that people were buying the dollar to make money on the dollar itself, the fact that the Cedi was dropping. And so I am being cautious with the choice of word to say that, yes, we do not have control over the dollar. And so long as at any point in time demand exceeds supply, then it means that the price of the dollar will go up. So if there is that much uncertainty in the environment, for which reason people do not have hope in the Cedi and would rather want to go for the dollar, then you find that every time you have that pressure. So until we have a bit of certainty within this environment, we would say that any gains that we are seeing in the short to medium term, we would have to watch the space and be careful to see whether it will be sustained.
Right. Let me come to you, Mr. Stephen Amoah. Clearly, you must be Dr. Stephen Amoah. I beg your pardon. Clearly, you must be. I said Mr., so I corrected myself. Dr. Stephen Amoah.
Oh.
So let me take your quick reactions to this. We know how hard businesses came at your government for the Cedi's performance against the dollar, but we are seeing some good news now. How does that make you feel?
Yes, once things are improving, so far as the Cedi-dollar relationship is concerned, of course, it's re-establishing market confidence, and it's good, and definitely is mitigating impact of hardship on Ghanaians. However, if I'm to speak professionally and not as a politician, I think as much as we are all happy things are getting okay, we shouldn't be swelling-headed. Because the most important thing is sustainability. You realize that the dollar issue has been doing so much harm to us as a country, not only today. Because I always say that if people say, oh, there have been A or B causing it, it's funny. A country that is wholly import-driven, your currency will always have this and other performances. Definitely you can have issues that can cause this acute situation. What I'm trying to say is that we should find a way to sustain this.
How do we do that?
The long-term approach is there, which we all know, import-driven economy, we need to find a way to it. In a short term, or as immediate measure, let me tell you, I went to South Africa, then you get a picture I'm talking about. We were about 5. I was the only member of parliament. They asked for your IDs, everything. Within about 5 minutes, they got their change or whatever exchange rate transaction business. Mine was about 29 minutes. Because when they entered my name and realized I was MP, they had to do a whole lot of search on me. You cannot pay anything in South Africa with any foreign currency, except at the airport. These things are not a Herculean task for us to do as a country. Why? We don't even know the amount of dollar in our system. We don't know, we cannot track the critical activity path of the flow of dollar into and outside Ghana. These are very serious issues. But once you know these things, then you can sit down and calibrate your policy framework and do something about it. So I think...
So this is a charge to the BOG?
Come again?
This is a charge to the BOG?
Yeah.
And also also policy on government side.
Bank, they should work the fiscal and then the monetary, of course. You have within, we need to do something about it. And then the banking industry as well should also help all stakeholders. But then we must also accept the fact that the government is trying hard in terms of now upscaling its communication. You know, sometimes miscommunication can create this issue about panic, and the confidence, you know, in the market will get bad, and people will start buying. You know, the doctor, the noble woman, said that people buy them because they were trading the money, and some were buying and hoarding. So all these activities are also based on the fact that probably communication, the cascading effect is not there. So as much as we are all happy that good things are happening, we shouldn't go and sleep. It cannot just be this. We need to still analyze, why is it improving? What can we do to do better to sustain it in the short term? And what are the immediate measures do we take to make sure that, yes, we are actually being consistent with the performance of the city? And then the long term that every Tom, Dick and Harry talks about, we need to work on that. We need to. There are basic items that, my sister, we have no business as a country to import them.
But that's why your government is...
the 1D, 1F.
And how far with that? Because then it appears
1D, 1F is one of the best policies any government will bring. But
how would you rate it so far?
I would, you know, I have a problem. Your question is perfect. But you know, these days in Ghana, you make one comment, then the social media destroy you. Now you people are impeding, not you, please. The media space is impeding that kind of boldness to speak on issues. They will take one and then they will insult you. So I'm being very careful. I think it's one of the best policies, but we can do more in terms of measures. I mean, if we are asking, what's the percentage of the output of 1D, 1F? I mean, as a percentage of our GDP, can we? I don't know. Maybe other stakeholders know. How much has it reduced our import driven? I hope you understand what I'm saying. These are all good policies, because the president's policy was to make sure that education and industrialization, because once you finish school, you need to get a job to do. That one is perfect. So the policy was to build that import-driven economy that will sustain attaining the long-term economic growth and stability. But I think sometimes the measurements are questionable. The measurements, because if it's free juice, I would have expected that 1,000 hectares of land or X hectares of land can produce the amount or the quantity of maize we need as a country. So after 1 year, we'll not import. And the measures are clearly defined in terms of the value chains and everything. 1 million or Y hectares of land can produce the rice we need domestically, and that all the inputs, everything that we need, well designed, and we know that after 1 year, we are not importing rice because we are producing K amount of rice that we consume. I think this scientific work, sometimes we lack as a country. And it's not only government A or B. And I think if once we introduce that into the 1D, 1F, where we have clear parameters, well measured, and know where we are heading to, define the needed value chains, from inbound to outbound, the jobs we create, the machines we need, the cyber line we work on, the risk that will be associated with it if we want to import. Already we've done work on the countries that we import from us and sustain. Once we do this with the figures, we have a benchmark. Then we can move ahead and battle all forms of turbulent situation. But sometimes we don't do, all of us. We don't do. And that's the only challenge I have with one demand. But to me, it's one of the best policies.
Interesting. So we'll be moving on to the IMF conversation
Maybe before
shortly.
we
yes,
get there.
Benjamin, just a bit on his experience in South Africa and how you can use the foreign currency to purchase items beyond the airport. On the 5th of April 2022, the Bank of Ghana released another statement cautioning the public on the prohibition of pricing, advertising, receiving, and or making payments for goods and services in foreign currency in Ghana. It appears we have all the fine laws to implement these things, but when it comes to doing it practically, then we have a problem there. But Benjamin, your question.
Doc, so we saw a steep rise in these hard currencies, the Great British Pound, Euro, Dollar, within a short period, but the plummet is pretty interesting. The rate of the fall, I mean, in a matter of 2 days, the dollar had moved from 12 point something to around 11. Some industry watchers have found that exciting or interesting, but I'd like to find out from you, why do you think this is happening? What, in other words, what policies, what real actions are triggering this? Is this organic? Is it artificial?
If I say it is organic or artificial, I'll be a liar to you. I just want to be very honest based on my access to data and information. But before then, do you realize that the year 2020, 2021, on the continent of Africa, Ghana was the best performer in terms of currency performance? You remember
You're quoting 2020 to 2021.
Yeah, I'm making a point. We depreciated 3.91 for the 2 years. We were all happy. Suddenly, within a few months, about a couple of months, 2022, the dollar started escalating and it never stopped. So I think there is some sort of research that has to be done quickly to actually find out. It's like you are there. You are very healthy. Then the next day, something bad happens to you. Then the next day, you are well. You need thorough pathological or physiological or medical attention and research to know exact cause. Because we all know the import driven, it's long term, we all know. So already our Cedi chronicle is not very strong. But this issue about the acute that we need to find out, which I think Bank of Ghana is working so hard towards those things. But you also realize the Bank of Ghana quickly, or is it the finance ministry? I need to find out whether from the fiscal side or the monetary side. Quickly, if I heard it right, because I was away, but I read it, that those who import rice and all those things, there were some sort of incentives that they were doing that for them to import them, and the government or the authority stopped. I don't know whether
the central bank.
Exactly, whether that actually pushed into that. It could also be when the dollar...
But we've been told that a lot of those who do those imports don't even source their money from the central bank anyway. So
source money as in dollar? Or?
Yes. For the imports, that most of them don't source their money from the
So where did they get a dollar?
That's the question.
That is what I spoke about first. Any properly organized economic framework, you cannot just acquire dollars or foreign currency anyhow. It's one area we need to quickly work on.
Right.
Quickly. But I think where dollar is heading towards now, if it's not the dollar is, have we also found out whether dollar is also performing the way it was performing? Because dollar even outperformed euros. You remember?
Yes. So, but it started losing its
so it could also be one
the
because it's a fight between two parameters. Once one is weak, the other could be strong. The other factor that could also be possible is that when the dollar decided to come down, the Cedi began to appreciate. Because people had bought dollars and kept them, probably they got scared. So they decided to come out. And that actually escalated supply of dollar. And once supply goes up, definitely
demand will slow.
Exactly. So once the supply was going up, the dollar will begin to be quite weak. Cedi will begin to appreciate. But in all this, the most important factor is that the relevant stakeholders should take advantage of this and never for the dollar to go back, to go up, the cedi to depreciate the rate it was again.
Okay.
I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
I get you clearly, and it's I always
and my sister says I wanted to comment.
Right.
Talking about the South Africa and Ghana, there's also one thing all of us should help. This is not about party A or B. We make policy implementation very difficult in Ghana. Because, look, even Joy FM here, which is, to me is, if not the best, one of the best media houses in Ghana, or even in Africa. I've traveled. This one is great. Your top boss can come out with policies, rules, and internal controls. If the workers, down to even security, if you don't help to comply, support, it will be very difficult. Sometimes our country, things are too difficult. You make this policy, this person says, and this group say no. You make this, you remember AGI and Guta. Any policy you make, it goes against the other, they say they will not allow. And sometimes the misinformation in the public domain, people who do not even have the requisite knowledge in speaking on issues, they take authority, they speak and misinform the public, and the support of the entire citizenry you need, you won't get it. So as much as other countries, they comply with authority policies and other things, we should also try as a country. Other than that, you change government and change government and change government, it will not work.
But I think in a very quick response to that, I think all we need is a strong hand to do certain things, because I don't feel, I mean, you're a politician. Sometimes you, the politicians, you backtrack on things because of the loss of political capital. Right. And I don't see, you go to Rwanda, they had something implemented on pastors, and you must attain this and that before this and that. Other African countries are doing things, and they are not, people will be against it, but that is now the law. You either comply or it bites you. So I feel it is less a problem of policy implementation and more a problem of the loss of political capital. And that is where both NDC and NPP, you don't have the will because you're afraid.
I agree. Sometimes I think absolute democracy must be well applied in our context.
Right.
I don't want to go too deep what former president.
I get the point you're making. Let me quickly bring in Dr. Chumesi Bafo very briefly on this. So I'd like to find out from you, from where you sit, why do you think the cedi has become muscular, macho all of a sudden, and is whipping the dollar, the pound, and the euro? For you, what accounts for that before we move the conversation forward?
Hello to Honorable. I believe.
Hello, Doc. I'm a prof. He's not a professor.
I believe that a lot of the speculation that was going on accounted for the sharp depreciation we saw in a couple of months ago. So why do I say that? And it all comes back to the fact that our regulations when it comes to Forex in this country is quite lax, and something needs to be done. And most of these speculative activities thrive on information. So every time they are anticipating what is happening, and then the demand balloons and it creates this seemingly shortage of which the price falls. And then when you look at the price mechanism we are using for our exchange rates, we are doing a managed floating. So in essence, demand and supply will determine the price of the currency. But periodically, you see that when the central bank has enough reserves, then it will pump in a certain amount to ease the pressure on the price of the dollar. And so for now, I think that principally, a lot of things are happening. Speculative activities have come down because the indicators are that the economy is coming back on track. For example, Ghana has managed to get a staff level agreement. So it tells speculators that yes, the trajectory the economy was on, there would be a sharp turn when eventually we get onto a program. And so all those people who were hoarding the dollar are now offering it on the market for sale. And so you see that that is what is happening. And around this time, time too, we also know that there's a lot of influx of dollars because Ghana in recent times is becoming the destination for Christmas, really, when you look at people in the diaspora who are moving away from the cold to get some sunshine. So all these activities, but we are being careful in trying to be firm with the performance of the cedi, because we know that by the end of January, February, there would also be pressure on the cedi because by that time, a lot of foreign companies will be repatriating their profits and all that. Yeah. So when you look at the trend of the performance of the cedi, it is very sensitive to happenings in the economy, but I think that if the central bank, is able to bring speculation to the barest minimum, and then we could see some relative stability on the cedi over time.
Right, let's now talk about the IMF. Yesterday, the big announcement was made. We've reached a staff level agreement. Dr. Stephen Amoah, finally, this government appears to be making some progress with the IMF deal, despite a lot of resistance on the debt exchange program by organized labor. At this point, organized labor is still firm in its stance. We don't know how that is likely going to impact the next steps when it comes to securing the $3 billion proper, because we all know the processes involved. This is just one of the initial steps. How does your government hope to address this particular issue? Because it appears that it will be problematic for you.
I think, in the first place, the IMF and the Ghana government negotiations or arrangement to ensure stabilization of our economy and also sustainability of our debt restructuring program got to where it is not just by chance. And let me also tell you and Ghanaians, it's not IMF that has program for government. It is government program presented to the IMF to show that we are ready, we are prepared. This is our program. This is what we want to do to restore economic stability, to ensure consolidation of our fiscal space, to do ABC. Then IMF will look at it and say that, oh, it's good. I think it makes sense. It can. So we are also making input. You go A by A. What shows that you can do this? Because they have stated that the program can ensure this debt sustainability issue, fiscal space consolidation issue, and the economic stability, and also addressing the confronting challenges economically. So they look at that and see what the government is ready to do in terms of our expenditures, in terms of our revenue generation domestically, broadening the base. So these are all parameters that were presented in a way that the IMF, at the staff level, they were convinced that it will help. Now, raising the issue of major stakeholders such as the union and other things, let me tell you, I'm being very honest with you. I think they are not wrong because probably initially, I don't know whether that was done because we have asymmetric information management. It's not everything that I will know. I mean, even Joy family.
Well, they say they were not involved.
So that's what they are saying. But I heard from, I think, one key stakeholder person from finance ministry, they engage their leadership. I don't know whether that was true or not. But I think the communication did not go down well with them. Because you know something, implied market forces are already deteriorating the value of these bonds. And that is why people go to any of the private banks that they have private arrangement with them. They go for their money. It's reduced. It's not government. So government realized that, okay, what is happening today on the market, I mean, domestically and globally, I need to put arrangement in place to safeguard my people and their assets. So if probably that explanation had gone down well with the union people, they would have understood. But there's this emerging trend in Ghana, which I will blame my government as well as the public. Sometimes such good issues and policies and strategic frameworks, before they come out, a hint is out. I mean, somebody get a hint, comes, I'm coming, I want to end with this. And then the whole stakeholder body becomes confused and worried, and they will talk before we come out to explain. But then it's difficult.
Yes, but their
concern is rather going to help the unions in the medium and long term. So I'm just begging them that they should find private experts in this field to explain things to them if they don't agree with government.
The problem is that you didn't involve them in the first place, and this is not just the example.
There
have been previous examples of how government, I spoke to...
The e-levy is an example, among others, for which reason then later you had town halls and all of that.
So the concern is that you needed to involve us first. It's our monies. You don't speak to our fund managers. It's not theirs. So you speak to us, whose pensions are going to be used for these things.
You speak to them or the fund managers?
No. So government says it engaged the fund managers. Yeah. But the unions are saying that we should have also been engaged because
the fund managers were kind of underwriters, they passed through them, isn't it? Or if now you're the fund manager, I put my money through your fund management framework. Definitely, there's interface between the fund managers and the government. That one there.
So you're saying that government shouldn't have gone down to the level?
I'm not saying government should do. That would have been okay, but I think that if you are the one who, managing my assets as a holder, and then there's interface between you and probably the government, and there's interface between me and you, I don't know the level of communication or negotiations or whatever that prevail between government and the fund managers. Probably the fund manager could have also engaged their clients or whatever before going back to government to do that arrangement for government to accept. I think in all, communication probably was not effective. That is what I think. So you are right. I side with you. Probably communication was just like you were talking about.
No, you don't side with me. I am not the one making the complaint.
I side with the point. I side with them. Right. I side with them. So maybe going forward, government will try to, knowing all these probably lapses, will redefine new paradigm shift in dealing with stakeholders and see that this is how our country is. In going forward, this is what we will do. So I'll plead with them. But apart from the communication issue, me from where I'm coming from, as a professional person, that I don't think I know everything on this earth. But I'm telling you, government arrangement will rather help and save them. Because the devaluation thing is not government doing it. There's implied market forces. And all over the world it can happen, and it's happening elsewhere.
But that also say, what is government taking in all of this? The statement by Occupy Ghana says, look, you created the mess in the first place.
No, that's not true. Madam, let's be honest. This thing, give me 1 minute. This issue about government created a mess. Before God and man, let's be very honest with ourselves. So we want to say that if now they see here, Oppo, flood to a brick and all the houses here demolished, then you say that your landlord alone did not put up a good house. We have fundamental.
But in legal terms, we have explanations for that. That is a force majeure situation. No one blames anybody for that.
There is global crisis. You know
the interesting bit, but it's just a second.
This issue. Let's bring God into this picture. I'm not saying this government is perfect. We made a lot of mistakes. But the crisis today, the acute nature, is global. Let's be very honest.
Dr. Amar, Benjamin, just a minute. So you're saying that this government didn't overborrow?
What do you mean overborrow? Let me explain this thing to you now. I'm sure doctor will listen to us. Today, I'm talking to you. Any honest professor should come on board. Already, Ghana has problem with borrowing. That's a fact. This government is part of it because we run what is called negative effective tax rate. Whether with or without COVID, monies outlay from government to the households are always far more than monies we get from taxes. So our country has problems with deficit. That's one. Two, we had about 20 months of impaired productivity. People were staying home. Government was paying them. At a point in time, nobody had to go, and government was paying them. After about 14 months, if 10 people were going to work, 5 would go, and government was paying them. Private sector sacked over 40,000 people. Payee, corporate taxes, everything went down. Government was still spending in the areas of obligations and other things. Definitely, the arm of borrowing will be the obvious choice. And because GDP was not growing uncontrollably, our debt to GDP will go up. Africa grew negative 2.02. The world predicted negative 3.3. So things were so bad all over the world and against us. I'm not saying people shouldn't complain. But if you don't go to work, you're not getting money, your children will eat, light, water, won't you borrow, you let them die. So the borrowing was too much, but it was an uncontrollable situation.
Right.
People should understand.
Let me just make these 3 quick points before I move to Dr. Chumesi Bafo. I found it interesting. I heard someone make this point recently, a politician, in fact. There will always be crises during any administration. You can look at the last administration from 2008, the global economic crunch that we faced, doomsaw and all of that. Someone will also tell you those are crises.
But doomsaw wasn't global.
I never said it was. The other point, I mentioned the global economic crisis, and then I came down to doomsaw.
But they come in different forms.
So I'm saying that there will always be crises.
It has never been in the history of this country that people are asked to stay home, but they will be paid.
Right. The second point to be made.
So they happen in different forms.
The second point to be made has to do with our debt. Dr. John Kuma, in recent times, and he's on record to have said this, that we may have overborrowed. Those are his own words. And of course, we know that of our debt stock of over 40 billion Ghana cedis, currently 330 billion thereabouts was accrued by this administration. Now, Dr. Chumesi Bafo, I'd like to find out from you.
Under which circumstances?
When it comes to, pardon me?
Under which circumstance and situation?
No, is it? No, are these figures correct or not?
No, okay. I'm saying that you are right, but I'm saying that the borrowing, I've explained why. If right now, God forbid, something happens, you don't go to work, you have kids and wives, your only source of getting money is to borrow or get revenue. But because of your situation, you don't get the needed revenue. You don't let your kids die.
Right.
So this is what I want us to accept. And it's a fact.
Dr. Chumesi Bafo, so when it comes to the IMF program, at least we have our foot through the door. We have a staff level agreement. But there are 2 sides to this. Are we going to meet debt sustainability requirements? Are we going to get the approval of the board? Professor Bokwin has said that the ball is in government's court now, and that it is only government that will be blamed if we don't get board approval. That is what he has said. And we also hear from the minority, they are saying we shouldn't be celebrating yet because our debt is still unsustainable. What do you see between getting our foot through the door and what it will take to get a full program from the IMF?
Thank you once again. I believe that the staff level agreement has come in time, and so it gives an indication that Ghana is on track to get an IMF program. But when you read the statement, you know that with staff level agreement, they would come here and look through the books, consult all stakeholders, and find out whether Ghana is on a good path in terms of particularly our debt levels have to be sustainable. And so Ghana has presented quite a detailed debt exchange program on the domestic front. And there is also the expectation that there will be some debt restructuring on the foreign front as well. And so before the country can get a board level, a full-blown program, it means that Ghana needs to show that the debt levels have been brought to sustainable path. And then in the medium term, I believe that the target is about 55.5% of GDP. And so all the debt restructuring and what government is doing is trying to show that it's on a path to getting the debt levels sustainable. But the condition really is that government is facing a lot of pushback on the domestic front, particularly when you look at issues and statements that labor unions have issued out there, the threats for strike action. There's a lot of pushback. And it comes back to the fact that probably the consultations did not go on well before the announcement of these programs. Because if indeed people were involved and knew what was at stake, then I think that if you are sitting at the table and at the end of the day an agreement is reached and you come out to say, no, you do not agree, probably that would be in bad taste. So the responsibility now is on government to be able to convince stakeholders who at this point are on the losing end in the sense that people invested, fund managers invested with anticipation of a certain return. Now, implicitly, they are having to take reduce values in terms of the proposals for the debt restructuring. So at the end of the day, the buck stops with government, and any delays in reaching agreements with the debt restructuring on the domestic front could possibly lead to a delay in Ghana obtaining a full program, a board level agreement with respect to the IMF program.
Doc, as it stands now, we don't know of any meeting between government and the unions. In fact, yesterday, just before we had that announcement from the Finance Ministry, the BOG and the IMF, we spoke to an executive member of the TUC, and he said they had not been called into a meeting yet, and we still don't know if that is going to happen. Meanwhile, the minority in Parliament, represented by its ranking member on the Finance Committee, Dr. Kasela Atofosin, is asking for an external debt restructuring program. They think that that is important. We also need to see that because we need to make sure that it fits within the laws that are prescribed. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that with respect to the external debt restructuring, if I'm correct, the government has hinted on that. And there, I think that even the extent or the quantum of haircuts possibly external investors would suffer would even be more significant, if my memory serves me right. And so it's something that we are looking forward to. But the external restructuring is also likely to come with a lot of litigations here and there.
So he actually, sorry to interject, he's actually requesting that it be brought before Parliament for scrutiny.
Indeed, I believe that at the end of the day, before this program comes to force, it will go to Parliament for acceptance. And so I do not know, in managing this, it's all based on a speculation and sentiment of market participants. So sometimes, yes, a bit of information asymmetry. You don't want to put all your cards out there. When you look at the way government tried to manage the domestic debt exchange, you could see that there was a lot of negotiations behind the scenes with some stakeholders. And so when the information came out that this was what government was planning, they were forced to come out at the time they came out, because the market participants are watching to see what would happen. So sometimes your best move would not be to put the information out there right in front of Parliament and ask for a debate. I think that no matter what the agreement would be, it would go to Parliament. But in terms of managing expectations and also trying to manage people's sentiment and potential acceptance of whatever proposal government would put out there, it would not be prudent to just put it in open like that. There would be some kind of behind the scene negotiations with participants in the market, actually.
All right. Doc, I'll come right back to you. I noticed that...
in this scenario, pardon me.
Just a second. Just hold for me a second. Dr. Amwa, there was something you wanted to react to very quickly, so I bring Dr. Chuma.
Oh, you finished? Would I speak again, or I should?
Okay, so then you'll hold your thoughts and we'll come to you later.
When he's done.
All right. All right. Please go ahead, Dr. Chumesi Bafo.
Yeah, so I'm saying that in this scenario, you see that the way it's sort of government prepares people to be able to accept one thing before the other. And it's all so that the information does not come out as a big shock. And so it's like, for instance, if somebody loses a relative in the hospital, you see that they would want to be preparing the mood and not just give the information just like that. People are about to lose some amount of their investment. So I think that the management of that information, and in as much as government tries to manage that information flow, it is also important that they do not keep key stakeholders within this space in the dark. And I believe that the Parliament is a critical stakeholder, and everybody has a right to some level of information.
Right. Let me just ask you quickly. We heard the finance minister say that we've done pretty well. In 5 months, we've got a staff level agreement. And that is faster than the likes of Zambia, Chad, and Ethiopia were able to secure. He also mentions that we can only get to the IMF board, which is the ultimate, if we get sufficient commitment from our creditors in support of the debt operation. Sufficient commitment. First of all, do you suspect we'll get that from our creditors? They are in this for, it's business in a way. And then again, since we've got an SLA so quickly, 5 months, do you suspect that will also feed into how quickly we can seal this deal and get to the board? Dr. Chumesi Bafo, are you there? Did you get the question, please?
Pardon me, Benjamin, my network was playing up. Can you repeat the question?
Right. So I was saying that Chad, Zambia, Ethiopia got to the staff level after many more months. In our case, it's been 5 months and we're already there. The finance minister has also made mention of the fact that we need to get to the IMF board if we get sufficient commitment from our creditors in support of the debt operation. And I'm saying that these creditors also have a business thinking. Are we going to be able to convince them? And since we've got here so quickly in terms of an SLA, do you suspect that will also feed into how quickly we can get to the board and secure funding?
I believe that how fast we get to the board to secure it will depend on the restructuring that is happening. So when you look at the Zambian situation, I think that they also got a staff level agreement around early December, but eventually their program took off in August. So a lot depends on what is happening on the domestic front. Once the staff level agreement has been reached, now the onus is on government to negotiate and seek consensus from key stakeholders, particularly people, institutions that are being quote and unquote, they do not have an option but to probably accept what government has or meet these institutions halfway. But at the end of the day, whether we get it as soon as possible or it delays, it depends on how government is able to show the fund that this is the path it is on, and for that matter, all stakeholders are on board for that. I think that what is quite new on the Ghanaian front is that we have not had the experience we are going through now before, in a sense that over time, government had periodically borrowed from bilateral and multilateral agencies until recently. And so when it comes to threats of default or negotiations for repayment, we have not really seen something like this before. And that also explains a lot of the pushback that you observe, because people are used to investing in government instruments. Government instruments, the examples we give in the classroom, for example, is that government instrument is safe. But safe in quotes, in the sense that in this scenario, you can tell that government can also have issues with solvency. And when that happens, it's an investment and it comes with risks. And that is what we see currently.
Well, what are you saying? Just very quickly on this before we come back into the studio. So we noticed that with domestic bonds, about 40% of them are held by foreign elements, and then just about a third by the commercial banks, entities. We hear that in this year, it's fallen by quite a lot to around 10% by close of this year. Is that good or bad for us, especially as we are also trying to own our market? Just a very quick reaction to that. It came to mind.
I I think that on that score, it is good. And going forward, the country needs to be a lot more stringent on who is able to purchase our domestic bonds. Why do I say that? Because it all contributes to the pressure that we find every time on the forex market. Why? Because these individuals, because of the higher interest rates that Ghana offers and the seeming stability that we used to have on the foreign exchange market, they would change their dollars and come and invest in the local currency. But at the end of the day, when they make the gains, they would have to change it back. And that puts a lot of pressure on the local currency. So I think that if it's a domestic instrument, we should have it in our laws that you need to prove that you are a Ghanaian and for which reason you are buying a domestic government instrument. When that happens, you will not find this persistent demand coming from, for example, capital flow reversals. People would want to discount their bonds. We saw it when the market is not stable, to quickly exit the market and put a lot of pressure on the foreign front in terms of the foreign currency.
Right.
So I think that going forward, and particularly there is also the need for us to look at our investment laws. The fact that people can easily repatriate whatever they make and send it abroad is an issue. I know that as a developing country, we put in all these to allow people the freedom and also make Ghana an attractive destination for investment. But we also bear the brunt of the repercussions when it comes to when our currency runs into issues because of some of these relaxed laws that we have.
Right. Thank you very much, Doc. We'll just take quick reactions from Dr. Stephen Amoah, and then we'll wrap up the conversation shortly.
I think I agree 100% with what Doc said. And it shouldn't just be talking, not she, we. I mean, those who have what it takes, the mandate to manage the policies and the resources of the land, to understand a few things and implement them. But when it comes to whether the executive board will approve the staff level agreement or not, she said so many things which I agree. What I will add is also the assurance that can be given to the creditors for them to also get to the level that their positions will convince the executive board. It's very, very critical that the creditors need assurance from us, and assurance from government, and assurance should be very convincing as a country, because their positions are also going to influence the progress to the executive board level thing. One thing we should also know that I put down was, we should also understand the fact that there is already external debt service policy framework, contrary to what my brother Dr. Atuforsen said, and that was 18% to our revenue. And that is part of the package. In fact, one of the ratios that really also convinced the IMF staff here. So we need to agree to. The next level is the future of the creditors themselves. They should begin to consider the systematic risk factors that are likely to confront them if they also make things too difficult for the government. Because it's like somebody owes you, yes. And the person is in a position finding it difficult to probably perform his obligation so far as that transactional relationship is concerned. You say, hey, me, I take firm position, I will not. If the person doesn't get it, your business can collapse one day. So they should also understand the fact that if the economy is not doing well, you must push for your money today, but you should think of the going concern. The other side is that the government should also, or the relevant stakeholder authority should also sit down, redefine its communication package with them, framework, so that they can also convince them very well. It's very, very important. There's this last thing I want to say. I've been saying this for so many years. It was part of my PhD work. And trust me, not that I'm here to brag. I'm going to Switzerland next year, first quarter, because of this work. And I've been saying this over and over, and I'm surprised that nobody wants to take it serious. Fundamentally, there's something wrong in our country when it comes to our domestic debt. The rates are not normal. You know,
what's abnormal about them?
Prof was a bit light on that. Normally, investments are classified. We have risk-free and then we have risky assets. And even the layman understands this financial principle that, investment principle that the higher the risk, the higher expected returns.
Right.
Government securities are deemed assets risk-free. Of course, outlier situations can happen. So they give returns less than risky assets. But in Ghana here, for so many years up to now, about 90% of the time, even T-bills give returns more than risky assets.
That is a fair point.
So it's bloating even our debt portfolio or whatever it is. And two, it's even making someone like me challenge our GDP growth, because the banks are probably also getting not unrealistic returns in that framework. So fundamentally, we need to redefine our corporate focus as a sit down properly and think. I'm not saying we are not thinking, or rethink and say that what are the fundamental wrong things we've given power, other stakeholders are there. What should we begin to think and then streamline all this? Look, all the formulas from 1965 by Sharp, in the 70s by Ross, I think in the 90s by Hanan and Lien, and then Dermin 2015, I did the next formula, that was 2021, marked by Canadian, whatever, professors in Ghana. Trust me, these formulas, especially those ones, they are not applicable in Ghana, because if you invest in any private sector, the returns you get constitute two components. One, the returns you get from the treasury bills in the country, plus the premium to compensate for your risk. So if you invest in EcoBank, you're supposed to get TB returns 10% plus another percentage. But here is the case, the TB is rather higher. So fundamentally,
I get what you mean.
Exactly.
So the structuring itself is problematic.
Though
when you speak of the current T-bill structure, it is also affected by the policy rate hikes and other things that have happened. So that have also forced us to. But I get it. The fundamentals generally are problematic.
We need to design the harmonization of these parameters and get proper structure so we can build on. And sometimes it makes even some of the economic figures and parameters and variables, values that come out, not really reflecting what happens on the market.
Okay.
I hope you understand what I'm saying. So,
it's
in fact, this thing that has happened to the world and to Ghana should send a signal that for once, we need to sit back and say that, okay, what can we do that going forward? Our country can be solid, can be resilient. We can also rub shoulders with the giant economies when it comes to our framework. And all stakeholders should also, in fact, I pity Bank of Ghana because they're suffering. It's not easy for them. It's not easy. I'm being honest with you.
It won't be easy for them.
Yeah, because if they increase policy rate, it's an issue. If they don't, it's an issue. I think they are doing well.
It's a problem
I think Bank of Ghana is doing
all central banks
and even the government
are dealing with. Even the Fed in the US.
Yes, and even the government, it should not because I'm MPP. We have issues that when you criticize, you are right. And I think they are cross-sectional. Over the years, these wrong things have been repeating itself, whether government A or B. But I think it has to also be easy for us. It's not too easy.
You
wake up and one day, giant economies that you depend on, inflation rate has increased over 400%. UK 1.74 to about 10.1. US was at 1.812. And even the global one was 2 to about 8. Then you don't know what to do to yourself. Your economy is already weak with all the corruption issues.
So these issues we can have more time to discuss. We're wrapping the conversation. I just felt, though, I wanted to know what your take was. Give me some 20 seconds of this. The Member of Parliament for Asawase says the Speaker of Parliament is becoming a tyrant and that he should listen more to both sides. Well, what do you think? Since you're a Member of Parliament, right before we end the conversation.
Personally, he has more experience than me in Parliament.
Right.
Muntaka you're talking about, and I respect him. I don't know what he's talking about, but I think...
He was talking about the censure motion and not building enough consensus, and says Professor Michael Quinn in such matters was better at listening to both sides.
Because he didn't go down consensus. Did he talk about the committee findings?
He was saying that there was even no point going.
Even they themselves said that the committee could not find anything credible for Oforiatta to go through that thing. They themselves. But what I'm saying, I've seen this speaker, in my opinion, being extremely neutral. Sometimes our people complain.
Right.
Minority also complains. It's like Joy FM. When NDC they are in power, they complain. When we are in power, we complain.
So you disagree with?
It means something. Oh, what Muchaka says no. So in fact, speaker is very straight. If it means something, I think he's going against us. Sometimes they also think, but he has experience. I'm being honest. Me growing up, he was among a few people that I was learning from politically. And the Speaker understands the standing order, understands even the Constitution with respect to the work of the legislature. I mean, it's crazy. He's so good, but he's not perfect.
Right.
He's not perfect.
There's no such thing as a perfect
I think he's really a father of the house.
Thank you. He's really a father of the house. What a way to end the conversation.
I'm the MP for Inshaso and a member of Parliament's Finance Committee. Let me also say thank you to Dr. Priscilla Chumesi-Bafo, an economist at the University of Ghana. Well, you're still watching the AM show. It's now time for AM Business. And we visit the Abossey-Okai spare parts market today, where over 50 spare parts dealers have shut down their shops due to default in payment of their loans and generally the high cost of doing business. James Ishon has more.
Abossey-Okai has built its reputation in the spare parts trade to the point where parts for almost every car brand, including Toyota, Kia, and Honda, to name a few, can be found there. Over the years, Abossey-Okai spare part dealers have faced a number of challenges. With the country's current economic conditions, most of these dealers have no choice but to go into another business. So we understand over 50 spare part dealers here at Abossey-Okai have had their businesses collapse due to the current economic situation we have in the country. I have here George, who is also a spare part dealer and who also deals in car engines. I just want to understand, Cap, maybe I must say a lot of spare part dealers in Omwejeja Jumano Kabroche. They are AC and Casamamentiase.
Okay, the woman say, Tisia, Okafa, and Emmanuel Amanonia. Well,
we are all aware that the cedi is depreciating, with the dollar occasionally appreciating. The government has been unable to find solutions to the cedi's rapid depreciation, and we must rely on dollars to import goods.
Abana so working no duty no working on in dollar and amount. Now meanwhile no what buying now dollar na come now unti menchiro no. Now working dollar no. Say ne me ko yi matches. Let me try for say 150 million, which is 15,000. Now 1 week time.
How will you deal with the fact that the government officials there use the dollar for transactions? In Korea and Japan, it is illegal to conduct transactions in other foreign currencies. But in our part of the world, it is permitted because that is what the government is doing.
Do the finance what buying now work in dollar? Do the finance say you my 10 cedi and then you chrome you Korea is $1 and a who could do solar? Who is getting into one?
It's been going on for years, and it's the reason why most businesses in town are failing. Most of them are unable to repay their loans and are forced to flee abroad in order to hustle for funds. You purchase a Picanto car for 200 million Ghana cedis, but the import charges exceed the cost of the vehicle.
Well educated. Me too, I just come off from liver. So, Anthony, sad no de for so long, but time when I don't need air done speed, I feel you feel at the end more. And it's just a simple meme to me, no, me call out when you say a simple say a band was okay. Say I don't know, okay.
We could have a lot of spare parts up to the ceiling, but now look at it. We can't afford it because of the depreciation of the cedi. So the new normal here is for people to leave their shops and travel abroad in search of money to pay off their debts. I'm sure you won't see me on your next visit. The government is a major contributor to the high cost of doing business in this country.
But this time around, and I don't know because they'll be a value.
Most businesses that took out loans for the spare part dealings failed because they couldn't pay the interest due to poor sales.
They go around I just said, "Oh, baby, no be surprised." And so not there. But because we you near man, uncle find near man. short time, but it's a say any dollar no system.
These days, we call our colleagues to bargain over the price of our spare parts.
We saying yeah, ton saying that koda also what they know at the rest of the other ton what they know. Engine way 25,000. So anymore, I just say Massa Afro big grab is a ton 27, 28. So because that's one check it.
This engine is 25,000 cedis, but some of our colleagues sell it for 28,000 cedis. So if you don't call someone to discuss the price, you may sell it and have to restock at a loss.
And then Sikano in because any money in your vacuum. So on the day I just a young girl, between my mini abaco, echo rounds no bisa.
So on daily basis, I ask some colleagues to go around and inquire about the price of goods in the area before I proceed. People around will sell engines at any price just to stay in business. Talking about port charges near the Ceciano, everyone like to what extent percentage in the increase within how many percentage?
So one in the what I say, dollar no cost ra, and I fancy Tamahabo and $1 and a work. Did the more $1 corner now and Yaman also fancy car, fancy to say car way, bongo way. So about January, February, we try to do Tibet 27,000 on like car we know.
It is illegal to conduct transactions in other foreign currencies, but in our part of the world, it is permitted because that is what the government is doing. It's been going on for years, and it's the reason why most businesses in town are failing.
So, don't above almost and to me, I don't system hard drink a crown. But never above who say, I say, if you don't grab a former, I think a near also above from Kakra.
Now, you should be to sell loan. Look at loan as last week here, Bank of Ghana increased the policy rate, which means Okoji loans, if banks near there, your interest rate on the loan would also shoot up. Be sure that some of the dealers here go for loans. I don't know, is that affecting you guys in any way?
I would the loan, yeah, because second edgemont, auto engine, Obi the court assessor, or the court for Pepona, in doing for a part, once the abroad say, engine, and yet some.
Taking out loans for a side business is a bad idea because you will end up losing money. We've had a number of them travel and refuse to return. We had not expected things to turn out this way, but it's us, and we have no control over the situation. Have there been any case a bit within this shorter period?
Oh, baby, see, and on baby, I know near Juma, baby, my contract inside. I just want to transfer and preach it. Now the go Sikano, I dare Chimiana, a reduce. Go of the other tono and then dollar into was a pressure was on it easier. But Sundowns won't be got some, was what some blue chida. So also pressure over it. Baby,
Mr. John says taking out a loan for a business is a no-go area at this point in time. Taxes on imported goods have been a major source of concern for Kwesi, who works with middlemen to obtain his goods for sale.
Yani bogus for na e adwuma no na I say bogus no omo na etu nyama no free omo no omo kofa wo abrochi no omo de aba no amako you airport na omo aye fa nyama wo.
We work with some middlemen, and we've always been told that they go through a lot before they can clear the goods. As a result, they add more profit to what they sell, making things extremely difficult.
Now port never got chance on for 700 million. Oh, into also no 700 million, also no make me find also what 700 million, and your man who you know. Also, back of Pebisia, oh baby. no akoyi ni ne ma no bet okoyi ba ya yeso ye ton won no ya omo so omkunye e na me so me koto oboga ho e bi ade a me fa no be say 20 million supply no e bi ono so be ba no because wako fa no be say 700 million opportunity no ono so di be ba beto so ama me am fa won no.
It is difficult to get drivers and others to purchase our spare parts these days. Would have to explain why things are so difficult, but they are unwilling to buy.
Obi beto wo nipa no o ma o kasa too much. And so first na said antisa by aban we buy no ma enema style e was ade ma we de bia omo complain e customers no omo timi obi wa ofiri kumasi boss kumasi de kumasi nyama boy fu na de tina mo akra ade na port no ben mo na mo nyama boy di so ati asie
me ba also drivers on say omo ba. What are some of the complaints?
Oh, drivers they complain omo ya ni say omo say daddy ni de ne bo na head. Omo complain my say daddy ni boy ni so you complain my bogus ni say omo so omo de man ba ya omo hwe bo no my akra but omo say omo ya den omo kan wasem say wo port no to obi emu omo say omo de ba say na omo pe no e no beton nti wa obetimi no abere wa be fa untumi be fa so afa na de gu omo no so ati ase
e yo mo ka reason why omo ma enoma boy taxes na e den
tax no de 100% and they can open taxes in there and the main problem me kai say
taxes are still destroying the business. We've had promises from previous administrations, and I believe we are sick of them.
But still, I hope the first in first in this time around. This time they are not cry. It's nama obi beto ade complain or the complain no. As na nipano or complain usu nim obi o ka che na be mas sanyama no ayeden akofom. Tiesa na yesu sa na enu mo dele sa nti obe kasa be by todo obe to be ya na kasa ni na ayeden edoso.
Me say me tell you, say drivers for no mo say enam say spare part wide. Although petrol akofom kakra. But say they are not ready to reduce price. Money on moyaje.
I agree with the drivers not lowering their fares because I know what they go through on a daily basis. I sell spare parts, but I understand their anguish.
Because of
these spare part dealers are urging government to develop proposals that will help businesses thrive.
Well, very interesting report there by our business team. Well, the Ghana Revenue Authority wishes to inform you, especially persons registered for value-added tax, that's VAT, that the Domestic Tax Revenue Division has commenced the implementation of an electronic invoicing system of VAT referred to as EVAT. This involves integrating the invoicing systems of VAT-registered taxpayers to the Commissioner General's invoicing system. Taxpayers who do not have an invoicing system will be required to issue invoices using GRA's certified invoicing system at no cost. VAT-registered taxpayers are to note that refusal to integrate their invoicing systems with the Commissioner General system attracts sanctions. Kindly contact the GRA's toll-free on 0800 900 110 or via these numbers on WhatsApp 055 299 0000 or 020 0631664, and that's how you can get all the information that you need. Well, this morning I'm here to give you some information about a COVID-19 mass vaccination exercise. Yep. Well, I'm sure many of you thought that COVID was over and we are seemingly out of the woods as compared to what it looked like 2 years ago at this time. But there's a need to have this vaccination exercise. And Dr. Margareta Gloria Chandi, Director of Health for the Gan West Municipal Area, is here to explain to us why it's important. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us, Doc.
Good morning.
Good morning. I mean, now all we hear on the radio is economy, dollar. It appears that COVID is being pushed away. We are not hearing about the infections as much as we heard of it about 2 years ago around the same time. Why is it important to have this mass vaccination exercise?
Well, COVID never went away. We only relaxed the rules because the infection rate got down. And you and I know that COVID is seasonal somehow. COVID usually comes when there are festive occasions, when people get together. And Christmas is coming. So we know COVID is also coming. We never stopped having cases, except that the cases went down. As I'm speaking, it looks like today we have 9 people on admission. We have a few who have been discharged. And you know, our reporting system is bad. So there are a lot more walking about, we don't know.
And there could even be asymptomatic people.
Sure. And then, you know, vaccinations work on a certain principle, what we call the herd immunity. So if there are about 100 people in a room, and then about 90 of them are vaccinated against a certain disease, the 90 shield the other 10 from having severe form of the disease. Although the 90 can still get the disease, they will not suffer as people who don't have. And looking at Ghana, if 90% of people in Ghana are able to vaccinate themselves against COVID-19, then forever we'll be free. But it's not like that. We have hesitancy. So it's just about a few people who have been vaccinated. I think about 38% of the population has been vaccinated. So we have a long way to go. And we want to capitalize on this festive occasion when people will be coming with the COVID so that we're prepared to meet them.
I think that's a very proactive initiative and you need to be commended for that. But tell us the period of this mass vaccination exercise and how long it will take.
From 14th to 18th December, that is within this few 4 days. But COVID-19 vaccines are always available. At any public health facility, you'll get COVID-19 vaccination there.
So if there's an organization or a group of people who want to take advantage of this mass vaccination exercise, how do they go about it?
Oh, that would be very good. Because we want people to come out. Just see the municipal director in charge of that area, and everything will be sorted out.
So this is nationwide, right?
It's nationwide.
So wherever you are watching us, if you are a group of people or if you are someone who owns a company, runs a school, it's important to also note, Doc, that now we are given vaccines 15 years and above, right?
Sure.
So if you run a school and you want to take advantage of this mass vaccination exercise, what Doc is saying is that just contact your municipal health director wherever you find yourself and they'll be able to assist you. So Doc, even on the bit of 15-year-olds taking the vaccine, we know when it started, there were some exemptions, pregnant women, breastfeeding women. It's important to explain why they can now take it.
Yeah.
Can you help us with that?
Yes, you know, people were complaining, this vaccine, we had it too quickly. The period is too short. But due to technology, we were able to overcome to get the vaccine. And due to technology, we have now found that other categories of people can take the vaccination. So those who are 15 years and above, whether you are pregnant, whether you are breastfeeding, you still can take COVID vaccination. Initially, we didn't know what some of the signs and symptoms were or the side effects were. So we exempted pregnant women and then those breastfeeding because they are the critical people. But we realized that pregnant women even need it more because if you get COVID whilst pregnant, and you have to lose your life. You lose 2 lives. But with the vaccine, you'll be able to overcome the infection. So we've realized that pregnant women can also take the
vaccine.
And there's also this issue about expiry dates. In the initial stages, the periods that were given for the vaccination, further studies have proven that it can go beyond. So let's say if initially Johnson & Johnson is expected to expire in 3 months, additional days have been given. So if you see any material about the prolonged expiry date, it's not deliberate. Research has been made and it has been extended. So we are still researching. Anything that comes, we'll let the general public know.
It's interesting. We are in that season where the weather gets a bit dry. There appears to be flu in the system. You've mentioned that we expect a lot of visitors around this time for Christmas, relatives outside the country coming in, expats coming in for tourism and all that. What should we be looking out for to ensure that we are safe during this period, even if we are vaccinated?
Yeah, you know, surprisingly, COVID doesn't show its traditional signs anymore. You could be having just some light headaches. You could just be feeling uneasy. But when you test, you are COVID positive. So the best thing is, let's ensure that those who come, at least we quarantine them. They could be in the house, but let's minimize our interaction for the first 2 weeks to be sure. And let's find out whether they're vaccinated. Of course, they'll be vaccinated before coming. Otherwise, they will not be allowed on the aircraft. So let's just be mindful that COVID is still with us.
And when we go into
and all the precautions,
events,
all the precautions, washing of our hands. As for social distancing, that one is missing from our language, but it's very important, very, very important. And also, when we are in crowded places and people are showing signs of flu and other things, let's tell them to stay at home. If you have flu, there's no need coming to town to infect people. Just stay at home, especially children who go to school with flu and all other things.
I like that you've mentioned that, and probably that will be another conversation, because I know it happens elsewhere where when children have the flu, they don't go to school. They stay at home. But here, it appears as we become so used to it. Oh, it's just a cold.
Yeah.
And then we send children out to school.
And it's like the baptismal certificate for every new child who goes to school. Once you go to school, you come home with a flu. We shouldn't be.
And sometimes it's not just once or twice, it keeps happening and recurring. So it's important that you mention that. Well, so this morning, and this is just by way of information for you to know that there's a mass vaccination exercise for COVID happening between today, which is the 14th, to the 18th of December. You need to take advantage of this. If you're a group, an organization, and you would want any help in doing this, just contact the municipal director where you are. But what if I'm an individual? How do I access this? Do I just walk into a hospital, a public
facility? Any public hospital should be able to sort you out when you get there.
But will we see movement, you know, like during the polio?
We'll be moving from house to house.
Okay.
We'll be moving from house to house. I think this year, almost every now and then, you see people moving from house to house with COVID vaccine and all other types of vaccines. So when you see us in your homes, it's not fake. We are Ghana Health Service. The people who care for you, you are the egg in our emblem. So we are going to take good care of you.
That's a very wonderful way to end this conversation. An assurance from Dr. Margareta Gloria Chandi that you are at the heart of everything the Ghana Health Service does. She's Director for Health at the Ghana West Municipality, and she's been sharing with us details of the mass COVID-19 vaccination exercise. Any other words, any other thing you'd like to share with us?
Yes, let's be mindful of the herd immunity. That is very critical for COVID. If we want to surmount COVID, then we must have the herd immunity. And the vaccination should be within the shortest possible time. The more you drag, the more other strains come in. So let's all give in to this COVID vaccination. You see, vaccines, children have received vaccines from their infancy. I received full doses of my vaccines. Nothing has happened to me. My children have. COVID vaccine is a vaccine. It's not different from any other vaccine. So let's put the hesitancy aside and let's see Ghana move forward.
COVID vaccine is not 666. It's not the new world order, we've been hearing from some conspiracy theorists. Let me thank you once again for joining us. So do just take advantage of this mass vaccination exercise and get yourself and your family protected. Right, shortly we'll be getting interactive with you. Benjamin Akakpo will join me. But let me just inform you about the Adum TV Festival of 9 Lessons and Carols. Is happening this Sunday at the National Theatre at 7 p.m. You don't want to miss it for anything. It's a rib-cracking fun reenactment about the birth of Christ from your favorite Kumawood stars, Matilda Sari, Dada Santos, Michael Afrani, Awoya, Otele, Kolege, Atenuda, Salinko, Shefo, Don Leto, Wayosi, and many more. Who would play Baby Jesus, Mary the Caretaker, Joseph this time round? Well, it's only one show featuring performances from Soul Winners, MOG, and the Ikuya Achere Memorial Youth Choir. The ticket is going for a cool 30 cedis per person. To get your seat in advance, just use our digital sales platform. Here's how to buy your ticket. Use the short code *713*003#, select 1, then select 2 Adum TV Festival of 9 Lessons and Carols to buy your ticket from the comfort of your home. It's going to be a night of fun with your favorite Adum presenters at the National Theatre of Ghana on Sunday, 18th December 2022 at 7 p.m. Our sponsors are Yamvita Infant Cereal with Milk, ADB, Truly Agric and more, Mansoa Herbal, Just Say Wamba, Franco Trading Enterprise, Phone Papa, Any Printers Papa Fee, Mikado Conference Center, Service Unlimited, 11-2 Feminine Wash, Stay Fresh to Impress, Calipo, Abi you know data, Midima for Herbal Clinic, Oyare for Wudima for Nehwa, CD Low Price Masters, durable and affordable, Tumira Herbal Center, Ayarisafi, Rockstars Roofing System, the key to all your roofing needs, Daffy's Health and Beauty, the Hand of God, Qua Mixture, the medicine that works, Compu Ghana, Passion for Technology, KFC, It's Finger Licking Good, and Kimonsi Ventures, the pride of Africa. Do stay with us. We'll be back shortly to get interactive with you. Thank you so much for staying with us. Benjamin Akakpo is here with me, and it's time to get interactive with you. We've just got very little time to do this, so we'll try and take as many calls as we can. Please, when you call, just go straight to the point so others can have their say. Listen to us over the telephone. Don't listen on the television. There will be a delay. Or, simply just put off your TV or whatever device you're using to listen to us so that you can respond in real time. But this morning, we've been talking about the Cedi's performance against the dollar, Ghana's IMF fortunes, considering the resistance by organized labor to
on the debt exchange.
Exactly. And also we've been having a conversation about interestingly a mass vaccination exercise for COVID. Well, guess what, we have Abu-Baidoo calling us. Hello Abu-Baidoo. It's been a while. Good morning. Thank you for joining the conversation. Let's hear you.
Yeah, good morning. How are you doing?
We are doing well. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, Kako, why?
Mepacho, this one that you want me to be a linguist for, you've shot your shot. Don't route it through me. Hey,
Abu-Baidoo Medase.
Ayo. Is that all you called to say, Abu-Baidoo?
Yeah, anyway, actualization is not over since Morocco is still in the competition. So please, do a calculation for Morocco since they are in Africa.
Okay.
We'll see.
So they're playing today. Morocco is playing France today. France defending champions. I don't know. Should we get a Moroccan jersey? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the whole Morocco thing.
Yeah. And it's same for me because while they I hear they applied at a point to join Europe or something.
They will win.
And even when, they won, they started their streak of wins. They were talking about they've done this for the Arab world and Africans felt, but still they are part of us. Let's root for them. But at the same time,
but
I feel some sentiments for France because I love Kylian Mbappe and the rest. So I'm really torn between.
But France is United States of Africa.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah, because when you look at the French team, our brothers, you can easily identify. Anyway, thank you so much for calling up and down there. Let's see if we get other callers joining the conversation.
We do have another one.
Nanayao from Cape Coast.
Hello.
Good morning. Let's hear you, please.
Okay, please. My problem is I've heard you discussing about the exchange debt and all those things. The question I want to ask is, will this haircut affect us, we individuals, doing the investments at the various banks?
Well, that's an interesting question.
But I think it was made clear that as far as bondholders are concerned, individuals will not be affected.
I've heard you discussing something about exchange debt. That is, talking about the haircut. And my question is, will that affect we individuals doing investment at the various banks?
Okay.
So I get what. Well, if you are a bondholder, of course you are investing with one of these organizations.
Yes.
If the organization is affected, you will also be affected. Unless you are an individual bondholder, you are doing your own thing, and there are not many of those. But if you are with any of these investment entities, then
that have
there'll be a spillover effect.
Yeah,
as far
definitely. And so, we're told that the BOG will be offering some support to some of these banks. When the finance minister made the announcement, he said there was going to be further details. But we have another caller from Cape Coast. Hello, John.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, this is John calling from Cape Coast.
Right, John, let's hear you.
Yeah, what I want to say about the economy. In fact, people are preaching that the Cedi has stabilized. It is even coming down. So items should also go down to commensurate the Cedi appreciation. My sister, today I wake up to receive a message from my bank. I went for a loan last year. They just sent me a message that the interest loan on that year was 14.7. And now because of the mismanagement of the economy, now it has gone to 27.44. So they are going to increase. It is going to take a retroactive effect. They are going to increase my interest from 14 to that tune. My sister.
John,
the city has gone down.
Are you a business owner? Do you run a business? Do you run a business?
Yeah, I'm a farmer. So I went for the loan to expand my farm.
Right. So you're saying this in relation to the calls for prices to be reduced simply because the...
Yes, and I'm saying now that I went for a loan to expand my farm. My farm. So now if the produce come, and you are telling me because of the rate has gone down, I should reduce my items, my farm waste. My sister, would I agree?
Right. Thank you so much for calling to share your thoughts with us. That's John from Cape Coast raising an interesting and I must say legitimate points there, Benjamin.
Yeah.
So he's saying that don't walk to a business person and ask them to increase or decrease the prices of their goods because you've seen that the city is performing well against the dollar. There are many components that influence the costing.
And those components that I've spoken of have affected pricing over time.
Exactly.
You can't just expect that in a few days or weeks. This will just turn things around.
Well, John was our last caller. Before I go, let me just remind you that water is alive. It regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for all occasions, 330 and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. We've introduced our special 19 15-liter jar for offices and homes. Now, you just need to stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. Come on, grab a bottle of Awake Water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchase, please call 026-235-1251. This advert is FDA approved.
Well, let's tell you a bit about the Ghana Revenue Authority, which wishes to inform the public that persons wishing to apply for tax clearance certificates should do so online via or download the Ghana Taxpayers app on Google Play Store or the App Store. Applicants who visit our taxpayer service centers will be assisted by officers of the authority to apply. Applicants are also required to indicate the taxpayer identification number of the institution or organization requesting the certificate so they can receive a copy. Applicants should take note and be guided accordingly. All you have to do, call the toll-free number 0800 900 110 via WhatsApp numbers as well 0552 990 000 or 0200 631 664 or send an email to us for further inquiries. And on that note, as we talk taxes and clearance certificates, it's our time to run away from here as the Joy News desk crew comes aboard. But from Bernice, Abu-Baidoo and
Benjamin Akakpo, you're too mischievous. Thank you so much for joining us.
Have a super day.
See you again tomorrow morning. Take care.